Part 53. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Bulletin Leng. Chapter 522. Ye Bufan gritted his teeth and took out a black pill. This pill was very strange. It was dark red in color and filled with a gloomy and cold breath, as if it contained death and evil. And its shape was also very strange, resembling a human heart. It was pitch black and released a wisp of black mist. What is this? Why does it look so evil? Ji Tianming narrowed his eyes and said with disgust. Many cultivators present felt cold in their hearts, and an ominous premonition came to their mind. Ye Bufan did not hesitate and opened his mouth to swallow the pill. In an instant, his muscles swelled up, his skin instantly became dark, and his muscles stood out, as if they were cast in iron. Then, wisps of black smoke overflowed from his body, making the whole person look extremely terrifying, more like an evil ghost returning from hell, and dark red lines appeared on his skin, which instantly spread all over his body, making people feel endless hideous evil. Ah! Accompanied by a painful wail, he trembled violently, and the veins on his forehead bulged, as if he was in great pain. As time went by, his whole body burst into dazzling brilliance, as if a scorching sun was shining in the sky, attracting everyone's attention. And on Ye Bufan's body, there was a mysterious aura, as if he had surpassed the holy realm and stepped into a new realm. Seeing this scene, everyone in the square took a breath of cold air, and was stunned by this weird scene, staring at the spot with wide eyes. What's going on? Why is Ye Bufan's aura growing? Is he going to break through to the quasi-emperor realm? Impossible. The saint and the quasi-emperor are separated by two major realms. Even if he is a demon against the sky, it is still extremely difficult to cross this gap. Then explain why there is such a strong aura fluctuation on his body. While everyone was talking, Ji Tianming's pupils suddenly shrank and his face became much gloomier. What on earth is that pill? It can actually raise a person's cultivation from a saint to a quasi-emperor. It's unheard of and unseen. Although the intelligence of the supreme sect is not strong, it is still one of the best in the entire Daoxuan domain, but he has never heard of such a strange pill. And the most important thing is that this pill not only makes Ye Bufan's cultivation soar, but also changes his aura, making it impossible to detect and completely unsee through. I'm afraid only the legendary immortal pill can have this effect, but the aura emitted by the pill just now has nothing to do with immortal pills. Could it be? Ji Tianming suddenly remembered some legends, and his face became more solemn. He stared at the other party closely, and for the first time, a clear and visible murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Just when Ji Tianming was observing Ye Bufan, the aura emitted from Ye Bufan had reached its peak, and he slowly turned around. At this moment, his eyes were scarlet, and his eyes were fierce and ferocious, giving people a bloodthirsty feeling, like a prehistoric beast, making people feel palpitating and frightened. Boom! A surging and vast breath suddenly spread, and Ye Bufan's strength completely surpassed the peak of the saint, and he was only a few steps away from the half-step quasi-emperor, and he had already felt a trace of the emperor's breath. Seeing this scene, there was a sound of sucking cold air from the audience. Everyone showed a horrified expression on their faces. They didn't expect Ye Bufan to actually break through to the quasi-emperor realm. How is this possible? I'm not dazzled, I have clearly broken through to the peak of the saint, how can I advance again? This kid is definitely problematic, he must have taken some kind of heaven-defying treasure. The onlookers were in an uproar, and many people's expressions became extremely wonderful. No one expected that Ye Bufan, the Taoist son of Qingtian Temple, one of the four major holy places, actually broke through to the quasi-emperor by external force. Ji Tianming frowned and narrowed his eyes. He could clearly sense that Ye Bufan's strength was far better than before, at least 3 times stronger. And he faintly felt a dangerous aura spreading, which made people feel cold in their hearts. Even if he took action himself, it might be difficult to defeat him. As the person involved, Yebufan was full of excitement. Because he felt how powerful he was at the moment. Although he was only a half-step quasi-emperor, he was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than ordinary peak saints. At this moment, he only needed to wave his hand lightly to blow up the mountains and even tear the sky apart. Ha ha ha, I finally broke through, Yebufan laughed wildly. At this moment, he was full of vigor and energy, looking down on the sky, and felt that he had endless power. Seeing this scene, the people present were shocked beyond words. They stood there in a daze, with their minds in a mess. You should know that the gap between the saint realm and the quasi-emperor realm is not a little bit, it is simply a chasm. In the entire Xuanhuan realm, and even in the history of the human race, few people have reached this height. Even the heads of the various families, or the ancestors of a generation, have not done this. But Yebufan in front of him actually broke through to the quasi-emperor with a pill. If the news spreads, it will inevitably cause an uproar and even affect the entire human race. What kind of heaven-defying pill is this? Why does it have such an incredible effect? But at this time, although they were confused, they were unwilling to say anything. They stared at the ring tightly, fearing that they would miss a wonderful moment. After the breakthrough, Yebufan took steps and walked towards Xuanhuan step by step. Although the speed was not fast, the air around him seemed to be distorted, and his power was overwhelming. I couldn't beat you just now, so, what about me now? Yebufan stopped in front of Xuanhuan, with a cold arc at the corner of his mouth, and said indifferently, do you continue to choose to admit defeat, or continue to fight to the death with me? Xuanhuan's eyes did not change at all, and his eyes still looked at the other party with a trace of contempt, and a trace of pity. Waste will always be waste, and can only rely on external objects to improve their strength. Stop talking nonsense, since you are stubborn, don't blame me for destroying you, Yebufan said, raised his right fist and hit Xuanhuan's face fiercely. At this moment, he was full of confidence. No matter what, he had broken through the realm and his strength had skyrocketed several times. No matter how strong Xuanhuan was, he thought she would never be able to withstand a single blow from him, and what he had to do now was to humiliate this woman severely and make her lose face. The seemingly ordinary fist wind carried an overwhelming momentum, as if it could collapse everything that blocked it. Xuanhuan's expression remained indifferent, and she continued to form seals with her hands, and then a dazzling fairy cloud burst out from her head again. Crack, crack. These fairy clouds intertwined and merged in mid-air, and turned into a huge silver dragon. This dragon was condensed from the dazzling fairy clouds, and it was lifelike, vivid, and bared its fangs and claws, like a real dragon, which made people shudder. Awoo! The dragon circled and roared, shaking the sky, and with a destructive breath, it bit towards the oncoming fist wind. The two collided, and in an instant, thunder exploded and flames soared. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by a series of loud noises, the entire ring shook violently, the stone slabs on the ground cracked, and dust flew everywhere, as if a major earthquake had occurred. Everyone's attention was focused on the ring. They wanted to see whether Yebufan's punch was stronger or Xuanhuan's secret technique was more powerful. However, this collision did not last too long. After just a few breaths, it showed a one-sided trend. The long dragon was shattered by a punch, and at the same time turned into a ball of light that quickly shrank and fell into Xuanhuan's hands. Yebufan stood there motionless, with a strong mockery on his face. Xuanhuan, what do you think of my strength now? If I am a waste, then what are you? Yebufan's voice was loud and spread throughout the square, so that everyone could hear it clearly, and everyone was shocked again. Oh my god! Yebufan really broke through and became a quasi-emperor. I didn't expect that he had a heaven-defying elixir. This cultivation resource is really far ahead. For a while, everyone was talking about it. In addition to fear, they also had deep envy and jealousy in their eyes when looking at Yebufan. Especially those young dual cultivators, they went through untold hardships and exhausted their family wealth, and finally broke through a small realm. Yebufan only used one elixir to easily break through to the quasi-emperor realm. The gap is really too big. Not only these young people, but even some of the older generation of cultivators showed greed. This kind of elixir is really precious. Looking at the entire Deoxuan domain, there are only a few of them. Each one is enough to cause bloody storms. Even the heads of the major families have never had it. Who would dislike having too many cultivation resources? Especially some family disciples. At this moment, they can't wait to rush up and grab it, but they know very well that there is no chance at all. They had witnessed the terrifying fighting power that Yebufan had just displayed. Anyone who dared to jump out and cause trouble at this time must be tired of living. Zhang Luoshan's expression was still indifferent. She ignored the strange looks and noisy discussions of others, and just lowered her eyes slightly. After a moment, she suddenly opened her eyes, a cold light shot out of her pupils, and she said in a firm tone, "The master said that what he hates most is people who pretend to be cool." As soon as the voice fell, she urged the spiritual power in her body again, and suddenly the rich spiritual power surged wildly, pouring into the jade sword like a tide. This sword exuded a white light all over, like a bright moon, which made people dare not look at it, and exuded a suffocating and tyrannical pressure. As this power increased, its size suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it expanded from an ordinary sword to a length of several feet, blooming with brilliant brilliance. Feeling this amazing sword intent, everyone present widened their eyes. They knew that Zhang Luoshan was really serious. And he used all his strength, which could be said to be desperate. Shua. The long sword swung, and a sharp buzzing sound came from the void, and it chopped straight at Yebufan with the momentum of tearing the world apart. This sword seemed to be able to cut off mountains and rivers and destroy the sky. "Humph, you dare to show off your tricks in front of me!" Yebufan shouted angrily, then he bent his legs, rushed out suddenly, and rushed into the sword light with a fierce momentum. His speed was so fast that he came into contact with the sword in the blink of an eye. Bang! With a crisp sound, the two weapons collided fiercely, stirring up sparks all over the sky. Then, Yebufan was seen being forcibly pushed back, leaving two deep footprints under his feet. Although Zhang Luoshan also retreated several steps, he looked very embarrassed, with a hint of red at the corner of his mouth. This made Yebufan frown secretly. He did not expect the opponent's strength to be so strong. He just hit with all his strength, but he did not gain an advantage. However, it was obvious that the opponent's strength had declined. He seized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bully him again. He swung his arm and punched out with lightning speed. This punch contained 8 levels of power. He wanted to take advantage of the situation to inflict heavy damage, completely defeat Zhang Luoshan, and then win the first place. Zhang Luoshan stood there quietly, with fluttering clothes, long skirts, and flying hair. There were terrifying divine rays flashing in her clear and beautiful eyes. She slightly bent her body, held the long sword tightly in her right hand, and the sword intent whistled around her body, surrounding her petite body, making her look heroic and extraordinary. Shua. When Yebufan's attack was approaching, she slashed down with the sword without any warning. This sword seemed plain and even a little weak, but it had an inexplicable charm, as if it integrated the great way of heaven and earth, and was extremely wonderful. At this moment, the hearts of the people watching the battle around trembled inexplicably, as if they were shrouded by death. What a terrifying sword intent! Zhang Luoshan deserves to occupy the first arena for so long. This move alone can kill everything in seconds. It's a pity that I met the quasi-emperor Yebufan. This battle should still have no chance of winning. Everyone's heart was in their throat, and they looked at the field with worry. On the arena, facing the sharp sword light, Ye Bufen's expression became extremely solemn, and he also felt a huge danger. The attack power of this jade sword was indeed far beyond his expectations. But, that was all. Bang! Ye Bufen was not willing to be outdone, and he clenched the iron rod with both hands and rushed forward. Clang, ding dong dong. The two magic weapons collided fiercely, and a dull sound of metal clashing broke out. Fortunately, the people watching the battle around dodged in time, otherwise they would have been affected. However, even so, several young disciples with weaker cultivation were affected, seriously injured, and wailed and rolled to the ground. Ye Bufen didn't even look at them. He only had one enemy now, and that was Zhang Luoshan on the opposite side. Just as he was about to attack again, a faint voice suddenly sounded behind him. Is the blood and flesh pill delicious? I didn't expect that the four great holy places would actually have such a dirty and filthy act. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 523. Upon hearing these words, everyone present was stunned, including Zhang Luoshan, who stopped attacking and turned to look at the location where the sound came from. But Ye Bufen was suddenly shocked, and he immediately turned his head and looked behind him. I saw a young man in black robe slowly walking over. He had a handsome appearance and cold eyes, which gave people an unattainable feeling. There was a strong look of ridicule on his face, and he scanned the people present. Like looking at ants. Ye Bufen narrowed his eyes. The person coming was none other than Qin Mu, the Lord of Qin. What do you mean? He said with an indifferent expression. He, isn't it clear enough what I mean? Qin Mu shook his head, with a joking smile in his eyes. Don't talk nonsense. It has nothing to do with you here. Leave now. Ye Bufen scolded in a cold voice, while his mind was racing, and he was quickly thinking of countermeasures in his mind. Why don't I have anything to do with you? Qin Mu said with a playful arc at the corner of his mouth. Are you just allowed to do evil things to the common people in Qingtian Guanxing, and I'm not allowed to speak out about it? What's the meaning? Ye Bufen raised his eyebrows. I don't understand what you are talking about at all. Leave quickly, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. You are still pretending to be a hypocrite. I will expose you as a hypocrite today. Qin Mu sneered and said lightly, You, Qingtian Temple, use human flesh as a guide to refine flesh and blood elixirs and practice alien techniques. You are completely unscrupulous and your crimes should be punished. After hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone present was in an uproar. This Lord of Qin is crazy. He dares to frame Qingtian Temple. Who says it's not the case? This is a violation of human ethics and an unforgivable crime. After hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone present immediately went crazy. Everyone's expressions changed, and there were many discussions, full of doubts and resentment. Especially the elders of Qingtian Temple were furious, staring at Qin Mu with their eyes. If eyes could kill, I am afraid that he would have been cut into pieces by 1,000 cuts at this moment. You are talking nonsense. We at Qingtian Temple are upright and will never do such despicable and dirty things. Qin Mu, don't think that just because you are a quasi-emperor, you can slander our Qingtian Temple at will. If you really want to break your skin, you won't get any benefits. That's right. Do you think you can make our Qingtian Temple succumb with just a few made-up words? That's just nonsense. You are talking nonsense. We at Qingtian Temple behave upright and have never done anything harmful to heaven and earth. Who are you? Why do you want to slander our Qingtian Temple? You must speak clearly today, otherwise don't blame us for falling out. The elders of Qingtian Temple glared at Qin Mu and issued stern warnings one after another. The monks from other sects also don't believe it. In their minds, Qingtian Temple has always been a righteous and well-known sect, and it is impossible for them to do such a crazy thing. But when they saw Qin Mu's vow, they vaguely felt that what the other party said was not a lie. After all, the other party was a quasi-emperor, not someone they could easily offend. As the saying goes, knowing people but not their hearts, Xuanhuan could not really do anything harmful to nature, right? For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Ye Bufan and Qin Mu. Nonsense! Ye Bufan's face turned livid and he yelled loudly. Is it nonsense or the truth? You know it very well. Qin Mu smiled coldly. In order to refine the flesh and blood elixir, your Qingtian Temple has killed many ordinary people, and how many innocent lives have died tragically in your hands. A group of sanctimonious people shout loud slogans on weekdays, but in the end they work together to commit some dirty deeds that deceive the world and steal their reputation. It's really disgraceful. Qin Mu didn't flinch and said with a cold snort. How presumptuous, who are you to tell us what to do? We at Xuanhuan are doing things. It is not the turn of outsiders to interfere. Just get out of here. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. Whether you believe it or not, we at Qingtian Temple don't bother to explain it to you. If you continue to be so stubborn, don't blame us for being rude. The elders of Qingtian Temple were all furious and roared. If they were ordinary people, they might be frightened. Unfortunately, they were facing Qin Mu, and Qin Mu who had some solid evidence. You still dare to quibble? Hearing everyone's shouting, Qin Mu smiled coldly and suddenly took out a dark red pill. The elixir is only the size of a baby's fist, and its surface is covered with fine runes, revealing a trace of evil spirituality and strong pressure. Everyone carefully identified it and found that the elixir was exactly the same as the elixir that Ye Bufan took out before. What's going on? At this time, Ye Bufan's heart skipped a beat, and he finally understood what the flesh and blood elixir Qin Mu just mentioned was referring to. This is an elixir that he personally refined. Although the grade is a bit low, it does have the effect of condensing the essence of human flesh and increasing one's cultivation. There will definitely be no problems. But now that this pill appears in Qin Mu's hand, doesn't it mean that he lied? This matter is of great importance. If it spreads, the consequences will be disastrous and the entire Qingtian Temple will be implicated. Thinking of this, Ye Bufan was shocked all over and looked at Qin Mu in shock. He couldn't understand how the other party found the evidence. What's this? Everyone's eyes widened, and strong doubts arose in their hearts. This should be the one that senior brother Ye took out. Yes, it must be. The fluctuations emitted by this thing are too familiar. It seems that Qingtian Temple really uses human beings to make elixirs, which is simply appalling. I originally thought Qingtian Temple was a famous and upright sect, but now I feel chills running down my spine just thinking about it. That's right. Fortunately, I used to worship Qingtian Temple. Now it seems that I have completely misunderstood. People around him were talking a lot, looking at Ye Bufan with eyes full of disappointment, and even a hint of contempt and disgust. But there are also a large number of people who hold objections and think that Qin Mu is talking nonsense. Humph. I believe in senior brother Ye, and I believe that Qingtian Temple will not do that kind of thing. It is absolutely impossible for them. Yes, I firmly believe that Qingtian Temple is definitely not that kind of sect. This is all a conspiracy, and someone deliberately framed it? Yes. Qingtian Temple is the noblest and purest celestial sect in our minds. They will never do such evil things. Everyone expressed their full support to Ye Bufan. Although they could not stand on King Tianguan's side, they still chose to stand firm and defend Ye Bufan unswervingly. Soon, the voices supporting Ye Bufan took over, and most of the disciples stood up to support him and protested against Qingtian. Qin Mu, don't talk nonsense and confuse right and wrong. Ye Bufan also stood up and cursed through gritted teeth, what I took out just now is obviously a top-quality blood jade pill, which is completely different from the one in your hand. Haha, blood jade pill. Faced with everyone's doubts, Qin just smiled and didn't say much. He raised his hand and crushed the elixir in his hand, and a dark red smoke rose up and disappeared into the air in an instant. What is this? Seeing this scene, the people present were shocked and didn't understand what was going on. Please be patient, we will know the results soon. Qin smiled slightly, then waved his hand behind him, and then, a corpse appeared in front of everyone. This is a monk who is about 40 or 50 years old, with a haggard face and two protruding eyeballs, as if he has been tortured. But the strange thing is that his mouth is open, but it is empty, and the base of his tongue has been broken off. What's even more weird is that there is a piece of blood jade stuck on the chest and abdomen of this shriveled and stiff corpse, shining with dark red light and exuding a strong fishy smell. Seeing this person, everyone around him frowned. This miserable and terrifying sight made people feel horrified. This is. Seeing this scene, the expression of the elder of Qingtian Temple suddenly changed, showing an extremely ugly look, and beads of sweat broke out on his forehead. Do the elders of Qingtian Temple know this person? Qin said with a mocking look, then turned to look at the other people in Qingtian Temple. Before the elders of Qingtian Temple had time to answer, several disciples from Kenju Ancient Cave suddenly changed their expressions and spoke loudly. Okay, it seems to be Elder Li. After they looked at it for a few times, someone answered tremblingly. At this moment, Elder Li's clothes were in tatters, his eyes were wide open, and his face showed a look of pain and struggle. It was obvious that his death was very miserable. Seeing the body of Elder Li, everyone around them was stunned. They never expected that the body of Elder Li from the Kenju Ancient Cave would actually appear here, in the hands of the Lord of Qin. What on earth is going on? Aren't all the people in Kenju Ancient Cave killed by monsters? Can anyone tell me what's going on? How did the people in Kenju Ancient Cave die? It doesn't look like they were attacked by monsters. Everyone was dumbfounded and confused. They couldn't figure out what happened. Especially the disciples in Kenju Ancient Cave, all of them looked livid, with anger mixed with fear. They were still attacking Qin just now, but in the blink of an eye they discovered that Elder Li did not seem to have died among the monsters as Qingtian Temple said, and his death seemed extremely miserable. What the hell is going on? At this moment, the 7 or 8 remaining disciples of Kenju Ancient Cave completely collapsed, and their hearts were filled with regret and sorrow. They looked at the elders of Qingtian Temple, hoping that they could give a reasonable explanation. But what disappointed them was that the faces of these elders were even uglier than before, with their brows furrowed and a look of deep fear in their eyes, as if there was something unspeakable. Qin took in the changes in the demeanor of these people, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Do you want to know how Elder Li's body appeared here? Hearing these words, everyone's eyes fell on him. Qin smiled slightly and said calmly, this corpse is indeed Elder Li from Kenju Ancient Cave, but he did not die at the hands of a monster. He was killed by someone, and he was the virtuous and respected elder of King Tianguan you mentioned. Ah! Hearing these words, the people present fell into a daze again, completely unable to believe their ears. Elder King Tianguan, killed Elder Li from Kenju Ancient Cave? How is this possible? Qin continued, and not only this Elder Li, but the entire Kenju Ancient Cave and even the people in Kenju City were killed by people from Qingtian Temple. What? The entire city was harmed by Qingtian Temple. How is that possible? Everyone present was shocked, feeling that this was an absurd and uninhibited thing. You are talking nonsense and spitting blood. After hearing these words, the disciples of Qingtian Temple finally couldn't sit still, and they jumped up and shouted one by one. You are slandering our Qingtian Temple. Kenju Ancient Cave and my Qingtian Guanjing Well are not in conflict with each other. Why do you want to brutally kill the people in Kenju Ancient Cave? Even if there is some struggle between us and Kenju Ancient Cave, It's not our turn to kill people and destroy the city, right? What evidence do you have that we did it? Hand over Elder Li's body as soon as possible. I want to inspect it myself. The Qingtian temple disciples all spoke righteously and plausibly, and they were all furious and wanted to fight Qin Mu. Qin Mu looked indifferent, still maintaining a smile on his face, and said calmly, I am here today to expose the hypocrisy and ugly side of your Qingtian temple and let the world know your sinister intentions. You refine flesh and blood elixirs to harm the common people and cruelly deprive living beings of their lives. You are simply 1,000 times more evil than the demons of the demon cult. If you don't tell me the truth, I will take action myself now. As he spoke, a powerful aura erupted from his body. The cold and chilling smell was frightening and made everyone shudder. At this moment, Qin Mu exuded a supreme kingly demeanor, as if everything in the world was surrendering to him. Lord of Great Qin, you are so brave, you dare to frame Qingtian Temple. Believe it or not, I will capture you now. At this time, an elder of Qingtian Temple became furious. He jumped into the air and turned into a white rainbow and rushed towards Qin Mu. Incomparably strong spiritual power burst out from all over his body, burning like a flame. The momentum was surging and brought extreme pressure to people. However, before he could get close to Qin Mu, he was swept by a strong wind and hit hard in the distance. Bang! The Qingtianguan elder knocked over a row of wooden tables and chairs and fell to the ground in a panic. The man spat out a mouthful of blood and looked up in shock, only to find that Qin Mu was standing in front of him, staring down at him. Everyone, come together and kill this dog emperor. At this moment, the other two elders of Qingtian Temple shouted at the same time, their voices sonorous and powerful. Boom! In an instant, the audience in the blue sky activated their martial arts skills one after another, and all kinds of gorgeous magic techniques swept in from all directions and rushed towards Qin Mu. At this moment, the sky seemed to explode, and dazzling rays of magical light bloomed, illuminating the entire sky. Court death. Qin Mu snorted coldly, a cold murderous intention flashed in his eyes, and then he slowly stretched out his right index finger and moved forward slightly. A wisp of extremely sharp sword energy flew out from his fingertips, tearing the air, piercing everything, and instantly pierced the throats of several elders. A wisp of scarlet blood flowed down from their throats, and then each of their heads fell to the ground. In just the blink of an eye, 3 powerful monks in the realm of saints were all killed. Where did your headmaster of Qingtian Temple go? Qin Mu, who had finished killing people lightly, suddenly asked. He looked around. Everyone present was silent, and no one stood up to answer. Let me ask you one last time, where is the headmaster of your Qingtian Temple? Qin Mu narrowed his eyes slightly and exuded a cold aura. In an instant, the surrounding temperature dropped sharply, as if a huge mountain was pressing down. Everyone present had difficulty breathing, and some even couldn't bear the pressure and vomited blood and fainted on the spot. You can't tell, right? Then let me tell you. Qin Mu sneered, stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. A golden light shot out from his fingertips and instantly disappeared into the space in front of him. Then, the entire space shook violently, and then the void suddenly cracked, and a figure slowly emerged. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 524. This is an old man with white hair and beard. He looks ordinary, but he exudes a terrifying pressure that shocks the crowd. He is thin and tall, wearing a crescent-colored Taoist robe, showing an extraordinary temperament, like an immortal in the sky, with an elegant temperament. But strangely, the other party closed his eyes tightly, without any expression on his face, as if he was asleep, like a sculpture, and there seemed to be deep fatigue and pain between his eyebrows. And there was no breath fluctuation on his body, not even the breath of the soul, as if he had completely turned into a walking corpse. After seeing the appearance of this person clearly, the elders and disciples of Qingtian temple present all shrank their pupils, their eyes were full of fear, and their bodies trembled. "Master, Master!" An elder trembled in his voice and shouted out of control. The others were stunned when they heard it, and they couldn't believe what they saw. Because, the old man lying on the ground, who was called the Master, was the master of Qingtian temple Xuanhuan. Seeing this scene, many elders present suddenly widened their eyes and showed an expression of disbelief. How could this happen? How could the aura of the sect master be gone? Could it be? An elder said tremblingly, his voice was very low. He suddenly thought of some ominous premonition in his mind, but he felt it was too absurd and could not accept it at all. When this was said, the others were also frightened, their faces turned pale, and beads of sweat oozed from their foreheads. This is impossible. The sect master's strength is extraordinary. He is a half-step quasi-emperor level strongman. How could he fall inexplicably? Another elder shook his head and rejected it, his tone full of confusion and doubt. No. This is absolutely impossible. An elder who was quite old also shook his head and said, unwilling to accept the reality at all. Xuanhuan is a half-step quasi-emperor level master, with invincible strength. In theory, even if he encounters a quasi-emperor cultivator, he should have the power to resist. However, now he fainted strangely, without even a trace of life left. This made everyone present feel creepy, and their hearts were filled with panic and fear. They didn't know why Xuanhuan became like this, but there was no doubt that it was related to Qin Mu. Especially the elders who had just clamored to destroy the Qin royal family were all panicked at this moment. After all, they all knew how important Xuanhuan was to Qingtian temple, but now he suddenly died strangely, which was really shocking. Master, wake up. Several younger elders knelt on the ground and cried sadly. They knew that the master was afraid that this time he was in danger. Ye Bufan was already stunned. Although he knew that Qin Mu was very strong, he still couldn't help but tremble with fear after seeing the scene with his own eyes. He knew clearly the strength of his master. On the surface, he was only a half-step quasi-emperor level strongman, but in fact he had already stepped into that step and reached the true quasi-emperor realm. Moreover, because of the practice of the skills of another world, his master's current strength can be said to be far beyond any quasi-emperor of the human race, enough to suppress the entire human race. But at this moment, such a powerful existence was lying in front of him without any life, and his powerful cultivation was gone, and there was no use at all. Ye Bufan was almost going crazy, and the impact Qin Mu brought to him was too great. If he was not too familiar with his master, he would never believe that all this was true. But the facts were in front of him, and he had no choice but to believe it. Ye Bufan's eyes kept wandering between his master and Qin Mu, his eyes were complex and dark, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Not only him, but the others present, including the sect masters and elders, were also stunned. What means did Qin Mu use to kill even a dignified quasi-emperor silently? At this moment, in addition to awe, the eyes of everyone present looking at Qin Mu were left with deep fear and fear. Because none of them were sure whether Qin Mu would use them next. After all, they had targeted Qin Mu before. No matter what, the strength Qin Mu showed now was too terrifying, enough for them to look up to him. Qin Mu quietly hung in the air, with a cold arc on the corner of his mouth, looking at Xuanhuan calmly, without any waves. Your headmaster, I solved it for you, no need to thank me. Qin Mu spoke slowly, his tone was suffocatingly calm, as if he had done something very simple, without any pride. Qin Mu stared at the elders with cold eyes, and a cold arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. You What did you do to the headmaster? An elder said in shock and anger. Although he was afraid, he still had a fluke mentality, thinking that perhaps the headmaster was just temporarily unconscious. After all, he was a half-step quasi-emperor. In this world, except for the real emperor and quasi-emperor, who is almost invincible, who can hurt him? He. Qin Mu sneered disdainfully and walked forward directly, releasing an extremely powerful aura from his body, enveloping the elders. Ah! In an instant, shrill screams resounded in the sky, and all the elders enveloped by Qin Mu exploded to death, their blood spilling across the sky. In just an instant, all the elders of Qingtian Temple died on the spot. Gilug. This scene shocked everyone present. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva and looked at the scene in horror. With his momentum alone, he crushed a group of strong men to death without even having time to resist. This kind of strength is too terrifying. And if they disagree, they kill people. Such cruel behavior made everyone tremble with fear, and endless chills filled their hearts. What exactly did you do? I, Qingtian Temple, have no enmity with your great Qin dynasty. Why do you want to kill them all? An elder from Qingtian Temple roared angrily, staring at Qin Mu with red eyes. He never expected that Qin Mu would be so unscrupulous and kill without saying a word. Snort. Qin Mu snorted coldly and said in a calm tone, everyone can kill demons and demons. You, Qingtian Temple, have done so many evil things. How can I allow you to continue to live in this world? It's really nonsense. It's all nonsense. Qingtian Temple has always been charitable and helped the world. It has never done any bad things. An elder shouted angrily, while a strong sense of crisis vaguely rose in his heart. If Qin Mu was determined to kill people and silence them, none of them would be able to escape. After all, the strongest among them was just a peak saint, and he was like an ant in front of Qin Mu. Qin Mu ignored them and focused his attention on the headmaster Xuanhuan, with a mocking arc on his lips. Xuanhuan, we finally meet. He spoke slowly, his voice calm. After hearing Qin Mu's words, those kneeling on the ground in the Qingtian audience looked up one after another, with hope flashing in their eyes. Has the headmaster recovered? But the next moment, the expressions on their faces suddenly froze, showing expressions of disbelief. As they watched, they saw Xuanhuan's body suddenly and violently twitching, with a ferocious expression of extreme pain on his face. Then he opened his mouth and spit out a large mouthful of blood, followed by bleeding from all his orifices. The skin all over his body quickly withered and withered, turning into a mummy in the blink of an eye. Headmaster! All the disciples of Qingtian Temple present cried out in pain, their faces full of sorrow. They never expected that the dignified headmaster of Qingtian Temple would end up like this. Master Headmaster! Those elders were even more heartbroken and filled with sadness. Especially the two supreme elders stared at Qin Mu with red eyes, wishing they could eat his flesh and sleep on his skin. The headmaster is the only young quasi-emperor level being in their Qingtian Temple, and he is also the Optimus Prime of their Qingtian Temple. Without the headmaster, it would be a huge blow to Qingtian Temple, and it would be impossible to compete with other sects in the future. What a cruel little beast, you dare to kill the headmaster, I will fight with you. Some people couldn't bear the huge stimulation and stood up with a roar and rushed towards Qin Mu. He had to admit that the elder was quite loyal, but it was a pity that in Qin Mu's eyes, his attack was just a child's play. Boom! Qin Mu just stretched out his hand to grab it. As soon as the elder ran 2 steps, his whole body suddenly exploded and turned into fragments scattered all over the sky. Hiss! Everyone was silent for a moment, all scared to death. Killing a saint with one move was beyond their comprehension. Qin Mu turned and looked to the other side with a joking look on his face. There were several old men in white robes standing there. They were the only remaining saints from Qingtian Temple who came to attend the ceremony this time. You guys should all be elders of Qingtian Temple. His eyes fell on the old man in white on the far left and he spoke slowly. What do you want to do? The old man stared at Qin Mu warily, with fear in his eyes. He is a saint in Qingtian Temple, and his strength is naturally very powerful. But facing the young man in front of him, his heart was still beating unsatisfactorily, as if it might jump out of his chest at any time. Don't you want evidence? Then let your headmaster tell you personally. Qin Mu smiled slightly. Immediately, he turned around, looked at the mummy lying on the ground, and said coldly, Tell me, tell the truth, let the world see the true appearance of your Qingtian Temple, and maybe you can avoid some torture. Hearing this, the mummy suddenly opened its eyes, and a dark and strange light appeared in its pupils, as if there was a will-o'-the-wisp burning. Ha ha, little bastard, so what if you kill me? If I die, other disciples of Qingtian Temple will rise up, and it won't take long before we can build another Qingtian Temple. The mummy laughed crazily, with a sarcastic look on its face. Everyone present was stunned. They didn't expect that Xuanhuan was still conscious after being turned into a mummy. The happiest person was naturally the elder of Qingtian Temple. The original sadness disappeared and was replaced by joy and relief. They know that Xuanhuan is the pillar of Qingtian Temple. As long as he does not die, Qingtian Temple will be rebuilt in the future. Qin Mu's expression was still cold, and he didn't make any waves because of what the mummy said. Instead, he raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Xuanhuan, I hope you won't regret the choice you just made. Aha! The next moment, Qin Mu flicked his finger, and a sharp edge burst out, piercing Xuanhuan's chest. Boom! Instantly, a thick black mist suddenly rushed out of Xuanhuan's body, wrapped him inside, and formed a thin film. Buzz! At the same time, the will at Qin Mu's brow began to rotate again, and a purple light gushed out and shot into Xuanhuan's body. Bang 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 bang! A series of thunder-like sounds came from Xuanhuan's body, and the black mist rolled wildly, turning into a series of gloomy winds lingering around, which was shocking. The black mist quickly squirmed and condensed, turning into a human figure, which was exactly the same as Xuanhuan. Qin Mu, what did you do to me? Let me out! The human figure transformed by the black mist roared wildly, with a hoarse and gloomy voice and resentment. I'm so sorry, you may need to wait a little longer. Qin Mu grinned and sneered, then waved his hand, and the sky was full of flames, turning into a red dragon roaring towards Xuanhuan. Ah! A miserable wail resounded throughout the square. The human figure transformed by the black fog quickly collapsed under the attack of the red dragon, and it was almost impossible to maintain its human form. Qin Mu, stop it quickly. We can discuss anything. The human figure transformed by the black fog shouted anxiously. Too late. Qin Mu's face was grim. He did not give the other party any chance at all. He continued to drive the fire dragon and burned it violently. No. Qin Mu, you are too much. The shrill screams continued to come out of the black fog, revealing a strong anger that made people palpitate. But Qin Mu did not stop the attack. Instead, he drove the flames to burn more and more vigorously, not giving Xuanhuan any chance. Soon after, the black fog gradually dimmed and became flickering, as if it would dissipate in the next second. And as time went on, the black fog became weaker and weaker, and it seemed that it could not hold on for much longer. The audience in the square was boiling instantly. Everyone knelt on the ground and cried bitterly, grief-stricken. The old man called the third elder burst into turbid tears and asked tremblingly, Master, how are you? Qin Mu had no expression on his face, slowly raised his right foot and stepped on the black fog. The next moment, the black fog shook violently, and Xuanhuan's shrill screams were heard. Qin Mu, the old man's eyes were bloodshot, staring at Qin Mu fiercely. Qin Mu, let go of our master, otherwise I will never let you go. Hearing Xuanhuan's screams, The remaining saint elders were panicked. They immediately stood up, glared at Qin Mu, full of hatred, and wanted to rush up and fight to the death. However, Qin Mu did not even turn his head, just glanced at them with contempt, and then retracted his gaze. The elders suddenly felt a great pressure, and their bodies were stiff in place, not daring to act rashly. Although they wanted to save the headmaster, they didn't want to lose their lives. After all, although they were saintly cultivators, they were as weak as children in front of Qin Mu and had no power to resist. "You won, I surrender, please spare my life." Finally, after the flames burned for dozens of breaths, Xuanhuan let out a desperate cry. Although he was very unwilling, he had no choice but to bow his head and surrender. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 525. He. Qin Mu shook his head and waved his hand casually, and the flames gradually faded. And Xuanhuan's figure appeared, with black smoke all over his body, ragged clothes, and extremely embarrassed appearance. Where was the dignity of the headmaster of Qingtian Temple? He was hunched over, panting, and his face still had a look of extreme pain. He looked at Qin Mu with fear in his eyes. At this time, Xuanhuan was no longer as strong and domineering as before. He looked like a down-and-out beggar, with disheveled hair and a grey face. He no longer had the arrogant attitude before. "Headmaster, are you okay?" Seeing this, several elders immediately asked with tears in their eyes. "Nonsense, I almost died." "You bunch of trash." Xuanhuan snorted coldly, glared at several elders with a bad temper, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Hiss. Feeling Xuanhuan's fierce killing intention, the elders shrank their necks in fear and were silent. Xuanhuan took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and asked in a deep voice, "Qin Mu, what do you want to know?" "Just ask, I will tell you as long as I know it." "Wouldn't it be better if it was like this earlier?" "It's really disappointing," Qin Mu frowned and said. Xuanhuan almost vomited blood when he heard it. "How dare you say that to me? If it weren't for you, how could I become like this now?" Xuanhuan gritted his teeth and wanted to tear Qin Mu to pieces alive, but unfortunately he was not strong enough and couldn't beat Qin Mu, so he could only avoid him temporarily. Xuanhuan's mind was racing, secretly planning a way to escape. He knew Qin Mu's strength. With Qin Mu's strength, it would be easy to kill him. The only way now was to get out of Qin Mu's control first, find helpers, and maybe he could win back a city. Xuanhuan's eyes rolled straight, glancing at the square next to him with ill intentions. The Qingtian temple disciples who knelt on the ground and prayed for Xuanhuan's victory seemed to have noticed Xuanhuan's gaze. They all moved their eyes away in fear and did not dare to look at Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan saw the scene and felt a moment of despair in his heart. It seemed that these rubbish could not be relied on. He could only rely on himself. Xuanhuan took a deep look at Qin Mu and said in a deep voice, "Qin Mu, I am willing to accept the loss. I will tell you everything you want to know. I hope you will keep your promise and spare my life." Xuanhuan has made up his mind that as long as he escapes from Qin Mu's control, he will immediately flee thousands of miles away to a hidden corner of the alien world to practice in seclusion. When he breaks through to the quasi-emperor realm, he will come back and snatch back everything he has lost. "Master, you can't agree to him." The old man's face changed drastically and he called out in horror. Unfortunately, just as he was about to stop him, he was stopped by the other two elders, who persuaded him, "Brother, don't be impulsive. I believe that the headmaster will know his limits." "Yes, elder brother, in comparison, the headmaster's safety is more important. As long as he is alive, our Qingtian temple will rise, otherwise there will be destruction," another elder also echoed. Hearing their words, the third elder's face was extremely ugly, but in the end he sighed dejectedly and had to shut up. The disciples of Qingtian Temple around him also showed despair. They had originally held a glimmer of hope, expecting the headmaster to turn the situation around, but the result remained unchanged. Especially Ye Bufan, when he heard Zhang Yunye say the word admit defeat, his face changed several expressions in an instant, and looked extremely complicated. Although he didn't know what kind of pain Zhang Yunye had just endured, he knew that he absolutely couldn't stay here any longer and had to leave quickly, otherwise his life would be in danger. Because once the affairs of Qingtian Temple were exposed, it would definitely not be easy to deal with, and it would even be attacked by everyone. Even if he was not exterminated, he, the contemporary saint of Qingtian Temple, would not have a good ending. Thinking of this, Ye Bufan immediately walked quietly towards the outside of the arena. Of course, the most shocked were the ordinary cultivators present. They originally believed in Qingtian Temple unswervingly and supported it at the risk of their lives. But now it seems that their support seems to be wrong. Zhang Yunye, the head of Qingtian Temple, actually began to compromise and said he was willing to cooperate. Could it be that what the Lord of Dakan said was all true? Did Qingtian Temple really use human flesh to refine pills and slaughter millions of residents in Kenju ancient city? Everyone didn't know, and didn't dare to think about it anymore. If the four great holy places of the human race did such dirty things, would there be any pure land for the human race? No one dared to guarantee that the other three holy places and even some first-class forces had not reached cooperation with Qingtian Temple and did the same thing. Thinking of this, many people's eyes changed, their faces were uncertain, unpredictable, and a huge wave of shock was raised in their hearts. What do you think we should do next? Should we raise Qingtian Temple? If these things are true, then we must not let Qingtian Temple exist, otherwise it will be a disaster. It's easy to say, but Qingtian Temple has a quasi-emperor sitting in it. It's not easy to eradicate him. I suggest that we capture a few disciples of Qingtian Temple and torture them to confirm the truth. Not appropriate, this method is too dangerous. If you are not careful, it will backfire. If you catch the wrong person, then we will be in vain. All the human leaders present discussed for a moment, but they still couldn't make up their minds. After all, Qingtian Temple has a long history and strong strength. If you rashly turn against it, the consequences will be disastrous. Everyone was worried about the safety of Qingtian Temple, but no one came forward. After all, Qingtian Temple is the first of the four holy lands. It is extremely powerful and cannot be easily shaken by anyone. Zhang Yunye stood aside silently, sneering in his heart and watching the changes. Qin Mu had long noticed Ye Bufan's little movements, but he was too lazy to pay attention. Anyway, no matter how hard he ran, he couldn't escape from the mountain range. Qin Mu looked at Zhang Yunye, suddenly shook his head and smiled. Naturally, this person was not caught by him, but was trapped by his backhand in Dakan, and finally became what he is now. It was a coincidence that Qin Mu arranged those back UPS just in case, but unexpectedly they actually came in handy. After National Preceptor Du Yulin caught Zhang Yunye, he immediately sent people to deliver him over non-stop. Qin Mu only learned the news when he was watching Zhang Luoshan fight just now. Then everything went smoothly. As for the body of the elder from Kenju ancient cave, it was mainly Xuanhuan, Chu Qianyue, and Sumayer who jointly found it. The three of them are not human beings, so they did not participate in the celebration competition this time. Instead, they were sent out to perform tasks by Qin Mu. With the strength of the three women, as long as they don't meet a real emperor-level expert, there will never be any problems. When Zhang Yunye saw Qin Mu's smile, he suddenly felt a chill running down his spine and couldn't help but tremble. Ahem, just ask, I will definitely tell you everything I know, Zhang Yunye laughed dryly and said quickly. Qin Mu smiled lightly and said slowly, in that case, tell me everything you know. Zhang Yunye hesitated for a moment, and finally looked like he didn't know, with a hint of confusion in his eyes, I don't understand what you mean, please explain in detail. Haha. Qin Mu suddenly raised his head and laughed for a while, then his eyes suddenly darkened, and he stared at Zhang Yunya coldly and said, Zhang Yunya, please stop pretending to be stupid. Now let's talk about how you massacred tens of thousands of innocent monks in Kenja City. What does the massacre of Kenja City have to do with me? Zhang Yunya's face twitched and he asked, pretending to be confused. Qin Mu smiled disdainfully and said sarcastically, stop pretending and tell the truth. Zhang Yunya's face twitched fiercely and he cursed secretly in his heart. How did he know that Qin Mu had investigated this matter thoroughly? Now there's trouble. Zhang Yunya's expression changed, and his mind began to work rapidly, looking for a solution. He pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, we did pass by Kenju ancient cave, but we never harmed an innocent person. I want to know what happened. Don't tell me that Kenju City was destroyed and our Qingtian, it's nonsense. Qin Mu's face darkened, and his tone became even colder. Humph, you are so brave, you still dare to quibble. I'm wronged, Your Majesty. I really didn't lie. You should also know that when I was caught by your men, I was in the Kanglan territory and not in the Deoxuan territory at all. Zhang Yunya hurriedly waved his hands and shouted urgently. Really? It seems that what you said makes some sense. Qin Mu narrowed his eyes slightly and seemed to be seriously considering what the other party said. Zhang Yunya was immediately overjoyed when he saw this, and quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, that's right, Your Majesty, think about it, how could we do such a thing with our status? Taking a step back, even if we do it, it's impossible to destroy the entire city, right? This is not good for us at all. Well, that's true. Qin Mu nodded slightly in approval. Hearing Qin Mu's attitude, Zhang Yunya breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he finally got through this time. In fact, he was completely unaware of this matter. After all, he was investigating the matter of Master Yan Zi in the Kanglan region and had no time to care about the Kenju ancient cave. This matter must have been Ye Bufan's idea. This evil must have wanted to make a breakthrough in cultivation before participating in the competition, so he was eager to achieve success, which led to the loopholes appearing now. Zhang Yunya turned his head and glanced at Ye Bufan's position with a warning look in his eyes. Then he looked at Qin Mu with a fawning smile on his face. But just as he smiled, he suddenly felt a dark shadow shaking in front of his eyes, and then a majestic pressure enveloped him, locking him firmly in place. Immediately afterwards, Qin Mu walked towards him with a wicked smile on his lips. Haha, since you didn't do it, there is only one possibility left. It was your apprentice Ye Bufan who did it? Zhang Yunya's face froze. He didn't expect Qin Mu to guess so accurately. Then he gritted his teeth and angrily said, Your Majesty, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to force me into submission? It's true that I can't shed tears until I see the coffin. Today I will do justice for heaven and rid mankind of scum like you. Qin Mu's face suddenly turned cold. He stretched out his hand and patted it gently. A soft wind suddenly hit Ye Bufan, who was moving away from the ring. Although this palm is light and has no fireworks at all, if you look closely, you will find that every time it gets closer to Ye Bufan, the strength of the palm increases. By the time it is only an inch away from the opponent, it is already terrifying enough the level of heart palpitations. Ye Bufan's expression changed drastically in an instant, the hairs on his body stood up, and his pupils shrank to pinpoints. In the face of this huge crisis, he couldn't even think of any resistance. He even forgot to dodge, and just stood there blankly, staring at the getting closer and closer palm prints with fear on his face. Bang! The next moment, Qin Mu's palm prints hit Ye Bufan hard without any suspense. With a loud noise, Ye Bufan flew out like a cannonball, drawing a beautiful parabola in the air, and finally hit the ground hard. I saw Ye Bufan flying backwards and smashing into the ruins nearby, denting the hard ground and splashing dust all over the sky. The many young men and women who were watching suddenly let out a burst of exclamations, looking at the ruins over there with shock on their faces. Puff. Ye Bufin spurted out a mouthful of blood. His chest was bloody and bloody. He had no idea how many ribs were broken. His internal organs were shocked. The energy and blood in his body were churning endlessly. He almost spit out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, his face was pale, and he was clutching his chest in pain. He struggled to sit up, coughing repeatedly, and looked shaky. His eyes were fixed on Qin Mu, with deep hatred in his eyes. Qin Mu, do you really think you are invincible? Ye Bufin roared angrily, his voice filled with endless resentment. I am invincible, what can you do to me? Qin Mu curled his lips in disdain, looking arrogant. You, puff. Ye Bufin suddenly spurted out another mouthful of old blood. His fists were clenched and his eyes were covered with red bloodshot eyes, like a ferocious beast that chooses people to devour. He stared at Qin Mu with anger and madness, and gritted his teeth and said word by word, Qin Mu, it's not over yet. Not finished? Ha, do you think you are worthy? Qin Mu sneered, snorted in his nose, and glanced at him lazily. Stop talking nonsense, quickly explain what happened in the Kenju ancient cave, and maybe a whole body can be left. After hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone around them looked sideways. Ye Bufin, on the other hand, stared at Qin Mu, stretched out his scarlet tongue and licked the blood from the corner of his mouth. There was a faint aura of evil lingering on his body, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Ha, do you think you will win? It's so ridiculous. I admit that you are strong, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. Ye Bufin looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, his eyes shining with bloodthirsty light. Today, I will let you see who is the real genius. After saying that, he suddenly took out a dark jade slip from his arms and crushed it. Bang! With a flash of black light, the jade slip exploded and turned into a black spiritual mist that dispersed in the air, and quickly condensed into a ferocious ghostly shadow. At the same time, he finally no longer concealed the power in his body that was completely different from human beings, and completely released it. In an instant, a dark wind spread, and the temperature of the entire Halloween mountain dropped sharply. Feeling the eerie aura, many young men and women who were watching couldn't help but shuddered and turned pale. This breath made them feel extremely uncomfortable, as if they were being stared at by something. I saw Ye Bufin's whole body erupting with black demonic energy, which was gloomy and cold, exuding a terrifying momentum. Especially on his forehead, a strange line appeared vaguely, which seemed to be some kind of rune. At this moment, everyone around was shocked and didn't understand what this weird scene was about. Can't you finally bear it? Qin Mu raised the corner of his mouth slightly in a playful arc, with a sarcastic smile on his face. I'm just waiting for you to take the initiative to expose me. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 526. Ye Bufin's eyes were red, staring at Qin Mu, and said in a low and hoarse voice, Qin Mu, today I must cut you into pieces. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly jumped up, and a black demonic energy burst out from his body, rushing over with a sharp wind, like a burning meteorite. He waved his right hand, leaving several after-images, and grabbed Qin Mu's head. Each time contained an extremely terrifying destructive power and exuded a suffocating breath. The aura of the Quasi-Emperor was fully revealed at this moment. The faces of many young men and women around turned pale, trembling, and they almost couldn't control themselves and collapsed on the ground. This is the aura of the Quasi-Emperor. Ye Bufin really became a Quasi-Emperor. But this aura is obviously not promoted by normal means. The Lord of the Great Qin may not be wrong. Qingtian Temple really did something unspeakable behind the scenes. Alas, I hope it's not true. Everyone was sad, praying in their hearts, hoping that the facts were not so. They really didn't want to see the Holy Land in their minds become like that. Facing Ye Bufan's attack, Qin Mu was not afraid. He snorted coldly and said, "Ye Bufan, you have gone astray in practicing magic skills and have lost your mind. I advise you to stop practicing immediately, otherwise you will only hurt others and yourself. Stop talking nonsense and give me your life." Ye Bufan shouted angrily, and his attack became more and more fierce, one claw after another, with tricky and weird moves. Although he had just been promoted to the quasi-emperor realm and lacked sufficient understanding of the realm and martial arts, he could still show unimaginable combat power with his strong physique and powerful soul power. In just a moment, the two fought hundreds of times, and the sky was dark. "Qin Mu, you deserve to die, die for me." Ye Bufan became more and more courageous, like a madman. His attack was extremely fierce, as if he was willing to hurt the enemy 800 and himself 1000, and he would die with Qin Mu. Although Qin Mu had an absolute advantage, he couldn't do anything to Ye Bufan for a while. However, Qin Mu always maintained a relaxed posture, and didn't seem to use his full strength, and didn't even draw his sword. "What on earth is this guy doing?" Ye Bufan frowned and thought secretly. However, he didn't think much, but continued to use his killing moves to attack fiercely. Ye Bufan knew that even if he was promoted to a quasi-emperor, it would not be easy to kill Qin Mu, so he could only delay him first, and then look for an opportunity to perform a fatal blow. According to the original plan, he should use his strongest skills at the first time to kill Qin Mu directly to eliminate future troubles. Because he knew that the secret of Kenju ancient cave must not be leaked. Once it was known to the secular world, it would bring a catastrophe to Qingtian Temple. As long as Qin Mu could be killed, there would be room for recovery. His current state could also be explained as being possessed by a demon, and there was no evidence to point to them. However, Qin Mu looked relaxed and carefree now, which made it clear that he didn't take him seriously at all, which completely aroused Ye Bufan's murderous intent. He knew that he had to race against time and must not delay. Otherwise, if time was delayed for a long time, it would inevitably lead to more troubles and unexpected changes. Thinking of this, Ye Bufan no longer hesitated, and two rays of light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and then his pupils turned red strangely. Then, a strange pattern appeared on his forehead, like a symbol, and like a ghost face. Then his skin quickly turned red, and even his facial features twisted together. The whole person changed in an instant, as if he had turned into a ferocious beast. Ye Bufan's body swelled several times violently, with knotted muscles, a tall and straight nose, scarlet eyes, and a mouth full of fangs, which looked particularly scary. At this moment, he no longer had any human form, and he was not even a demon beast. He was just a demon in human skin, which was chilling. "Well, this is... what kind of magic is this? How could it become like this?" They stared with wide eyes, shocked, and couldn't believe what they saw. Is Ye Bufan really still a human? Or is he a devil who is neither human nor ghost? Roar! In the shocked eyes of everyone, Ye Bufan roared to the sky, and a monstrous demonic flame burst out of his body, burning the surrounding space and twisting and collapsing. Then, he raised his head, revealing a hideous face, and gnashed his teeth and said, "Qin Mu, today we will settle new and old scores together." After that, he stepped on the void, and his body shot towards Qin Mu like a cannonball, hitting him hard, carrying the power of destroying the world. Boom! He ran quickly in the air, stirring up waves of air and rolling up flying sand and rocks, like an evil ghost crawling out of hell. Qin Mu stood there motionless, just slowly raised his fist and punched forward. In the blink of an eye, the two of them collided hundreds of times, and each punch had the power to split mountains and rocks. At this moment, Ye Bufan's strength increased nearly tenfold, and the power of each punch was even greater than before, which was simply horrifying. Qin Mu was still calm and composed, and he fought against him steadily. The crowd around was forced to retreat quickly and stay away from the battlefield, fearing that they would be affected. They watched the scene with worry, wondering who would be better between Qin and Ye Bufan. Bang! Finally, with a muffled sound, Ye Bufan retreated 4 or 5 steps before he could barely stabilize his body, but Qin still stood there, motionless. Puff! Then he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face suddenly became a little sluggish. Both his blood and vitality were consumed greatly. Ye Bufan, is this all you can do? Qin looked down at him and said indifferently, give up, don't waste your energy. I don't believe that I, a quasi-emperor, can't kill you. Ye Bufan gritted his teeth and growled, and launched a fierce charge towards Qin again. But this time, he was even crazier than before, with surging demonic flames all over his body, exuding bloodthirsty and cruel killing intent. In a blink of an eye, the two of them were entangled again, and a stream of violent airflows raged in all directions like a tornado. Every time they collided, they generated strong energy. Even with the protection of the formation, they could not stop their terrifying destructive power, causing the hall to be in a mess. Soon, Ye Bufan spit out blood mist again, and his breath became even weaker. His clothes had turned into pieces, revealing shocking scars, and he looked extremely miserable. But he was not afraid at all, but became more and more courageous as he fought. The fierce breath in his eyes seemed to be able to tear apart all obstacles, devour everything, and annihilate all living things. At this moment, Ye Bufan had already fallen into a state of loss of control, and his body was filled with a strong bloodthirsty and violent breath, and he was completely desperate. Is this the power you are proud of? It looks nothing more than that. Qin mouth drew a sneer, and at the same time, a trace of contempt appeared in the depths of his eyes. The reason why he deliberately suppressed his cultivation and did not use all his strength was to see what kind of power Ye Bufan was using at this time. Otherwise, he would have dealt with the other party long ago, but now it seems that the power Ye Bufan used is nothing more than that. Although there are unique exquisiteness, the gap is still too big compared to him, just like a child waving a wooden sword. However, compared to ordinary cultivators, it is indeed shocking. If any other Peak Saint Realm cultivators were to encounter it, they would probably have to flee in panic. It's a pity that Ye Bufan's opponent is Qin. He, you will know soon. I am more powerful than you can imagine. A gloomy and cold light flashed in Ye Bufan's eyes, and then his body trembled slightly, as if he was suffering from some kind of pain. However, this did not affect his offensive. Compared with just now, Ye Bufan's moves seemed more fierce and fierce. Every punch and every kick contained the power of overwhelming power, causing the surrounding space to distort and collapse. And the most bizarre thing is that this power seems to be above the heaven and earth, as if it is endless. Xuanhuan, who was standing aside, saw this scene, his face suddenly changed, and he quickly shouted, "Evil beast, are you crazy? Stop it now. If this continues, Qin doesn't even need to continue to ask, and all the truth will be clear." But Ye Bufan didn't bother to pay attention at all. Like a perpetual motion machine, he continued to attack frantically, as if he wanted to kill Qin completely. Now he only had one thought in his mind, which was to take revenge and kill all the enemies in front of him. He had completely lost his mind. Qin no longer suppressed his cultivation. After the danshan in his body was running, an extremely strong force surged throughout his body. In an instant, his momentum increased again, reaching a terrifying level, even faintly surpassing the category of the peak of the quasi-emperor. Since you are stubborn, I have no choice but to send you to the west. The moment the voice fell, Qin shook his head and then swung his fist and smashed. This punch contained infinite power and pressure, as if it was crushing withered and rotten. Crack! A crisp sound came, and in the face of the huge force, Ye Bufan's chest bones broke inch by inch, and his ribs were deeply sunken. At the same time, his body was thrown out heavily and fell hundreds of feet away. The power of this punch contained 99% of Qin Mu's strength. Even the peak of the quasi-emperor might not be able to withstand it, let alone Ye Bufan, who was only at the quasi-emperor level. At this moment, Ye Bufan was lying in a pool of blood, curled up into a ball, covering his chest with his arms, panting violently, and vomiting blood. This huge force was enough to shock Ye Bufan to death, but Qin Mu chose to hold back at the critical moment, otherwise he would have died. Cough cough. After struggling for a long time, Ye Bufan finally sat up, coughed violently a few times, and then spurted out another mouthful of black blood. The whole person's momentum instantly fell to the freezing point, and there was no longer any threat. Qin Mu stretched out his hand to grab Ye Bufan's neck, as if he was holding a dead dog with ease. Alas! Seeing this scene, Xuanhuan sighed and closed his eyes helplessly. From now on, Qingtian Temple may no longer exist. But now that things have come to this, he is powerless to change the situation. No matter how angry or sad he is, he can't change any results. Ye Bufan's face was also full of sadness and sorrow, but at this moment, he suddenly laughed up to the sky. Ha ha ha. After laughing, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at Qin Mu opposite. Qin, wait, sooner or later someone will take your head. After saying that, Ye Bufan slowly closed his eyes. Huh, seeing this scene, everyone was stunned at first, and then understood. He just used a forbidden secret technique and paid an unbearable price. Now he finally couldn't hold on any longer, so he took the initiative to seek death. But no one expected that this guy had already been defeated. When he was about to die, he still didn't forget to say harsh words, which was simply dumbfounding. Qin Mu said with a sarcastic face, "I'll wait." Ye Bufan opened his eyes and glared at him with hatred on his face. "Don't be too happy too soon, your death will come soon." Qin Mu smiled coldly, and his eyes suddenly became extremely playful. "Don't worry, I will take good care of your sister for you after you die." You. Hearing these words, Ye Bufan flew into a rage, his eyes instantly turned as scarlet as blood, and his whole body was like an erupting volcano. "Bastard! You dare to touch her and try." He suddenly stood up and looked at Qin Mu with vicious eyes, wishing he could eat his flesh and sleep on his skin. However, due to the serious injury, his whole body was limp and he collapsed again. At this moment, Ye Bufan felt full of regret. He should have left earlier, but now he has ended up in this situation. Don't be so excited. Although you, the elder brother, are heinous and outraged by both men and gods, your sister is innocent and I will not embarrass her. Seeing Ye Bufan gritting his teeth, Qin Mu showed a smile. "Don't worry, I will definitely treat her well." Ye Bufan gritted his teeth and squeezed out two words, "You dare." "What dare I not do?" Qin Mu said with a joking look on his face, "You should worry about yourself first." Ye Bufan gritted his teeth and glared at the opponent with red eyes, as if he would rush forward to fight the opponent at any time. Qin Mu didn't bother to pay attention to him, but slowly came closer. "Tell me, what's going on behind Qingyun Temple, and how Kenja City was destroyed?" Ye Bufan didn't answer, just stared at him with hatred, without any intention of surrendering. "It seems like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Okay, then we can get started." Qin Mu snorted coldly, then raised his palm and hit it with an arc of light. Poof! This time, Ye Bufan could no longer stop him. His entire right arm was cut off at shoulder level, and blood splattered out. But he still gritted his teeth and said nothing, his eyes filled with deep resentment. Qin Mu didn't care, but walked up to Ye Bufan, raised his foot and stepped on the other man's chest. "Actually, it doesn't matter if you don't tell me. I know where Qingyun Temple's lair is. I can naturally find some clues as long as I search it." Hearing these words, Yebufin's pupils suddenly shrank. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 527. King Tianguan has been planning secretly for so long. If Qin Mu is really asked to investigate, he will definitely not be able to hide the news. But Yebufan immediately realized that since Qin Mu was so confident, he must have conducted a detailed investigation on him, and he might even have been eyeing Qingtian Temple. After thinking about this, Yebufan's heart suddenly burned with raging anger, but now that he was seriously injured, he could only look at Qin Mu with vicious eyes. Qin Mu, today's humiliation will be repaid to me, in my next life. Revenge? Just you. Seeing the other party's appearance, Qin Mu couldn't help but laugh mockingly. You are not worthy of being called an immortal cultivator at all. You have even discarded the most basic dignity and pride. It is simply shameful. Yebufan sneered, dignity and pride are nothing. As long as I can kill you, I will do whatever you ask me to do. It's a pity that you don't have a chance. Qin Mu smiled indifferently, and then asked, by the way, how many disciples like you are there in Qingyun Temple who practice magic arts? Yebufan snorted coldly and said nothing, obviously still determined to defeat the enemy to the death. Okay, why don't you tell me? Then I will let you reveal your true colors. After Qin Mu finished speaking, he waved his hand, and a wisp of red gold flame appeared out of thin air. It instantly turned into a long sword, suspended above Yebufan's head, and then suddenly slashed down. He went straight to Yebufan's dantian and attacked. No. Feeling the scorching temperature and powerful breath of the flame, Yebufan was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder burst, and he shouted quickly. But now the spiritual energy in his body is scattered, and he can no longer muster any strength. In addition, the injury is too serious, there is no way to avoid it, let alone stop it. In the blink of an eye, the flame cut into his body. Yebufan screamed, and then his whole body twitched violently. His whole body curled up into a ball, rolling around and wailing in pain. At the same time, bursts of black smoke emitted from his body. Ouch! In an instant, the pain was heartbreaking, and the heart-rending screams spread throughout the arena, sounding extremely sad. Immediately, a ball of pitch-black filth rolled out from Yebufan's navel. Those things exuded a fishy smell, were as thick as slurry, and had an unusually strange stench, as if coming from the Nine Netherworld. The people around him couldn't help but frown, and they all covered their noses and took a few steps back. Qin Mu stayed away with a look of disgust, then flicked his finger to seal Yebufan to prevent him from causing a disturbance by moving around. At this time, his expression was a little strange, he curled his lips disdainfully, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Yebufan, don't you like to eat people? Then I will let you eat as much as you like. As soon as he finished speaking, the ball of filth floated into the air, and then quickly rushed towards Yebufan. Ah! Yebufan struggled wildly and screamed, but unfortunately he was too seriously injured, and Qin Mu sealed his acupuncture points, which didn't help at all. After a while, the filth entered his mouth, then flowed down his throat and into his stomach, where it quickly merged together. Then a layer of black mist immediately appeared all over his body. The originally handsome face gradually became twisted and ferocious, the eyes turned red, the lips turned outward, and saliva kept flowing out of the ears. The most important thing is that purple-red lines began to appear on his exposed skin, which looked very scary. Seeing this scene, everyone in the audience couldn't help but feel terrified. Especially the young people, they quickly fainted from the stench, and several women even vomited. The scene was very disgusting. Kaka. Immediately afterwards, Yebufan's arms, legs, and waist made a crisp sound, his muscles cracked, and his bones shattered. An eerie and terrifying aura spread from him, causing everyone present to widen their eyes in horror. Qin Mu stood nearby, watching all this lazily, full of amusement and teasing. After about 3 minutes, Yebufan finally calmed down and stopped struggling and screaming. He stood there sluggishly, like a walking zombie. At this time, the clothes all over his body were completely rotted, revealing patches of dark skin covered with strange runes. He is neither human nor ghost, and his height is much shorter. The whole person looks like a skeleton. His eyes were lowered dully, and he just stood there in a daze. Suddenly, Yebufan slowly raised his head, his red eyes flashing with bloodthirsty light, which made people shudder. He opened his mouth, revealing a row of sharp fangs. Immediately afterwards, his figure flashed and he rushed towards Qin Mu. Although his movements were slow and stiff, he was extremely fast and was in front of Qin Mu in the blink of an eye. Seeing this scene, everyone in the audience took a breath. Yebufan looked like this now, almost like an evil ghost. No one could believe that he was the handsome Taoist Qingtian Temple before. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows slightly, and then showed a hint of contempt. He stretched out 2 fingers and pinched Yebufan firmly from the distance. Yebufan punched with both fists, but couldn't shake it at all, just like an egg hitting a stone. A faint smile appeared on Qin Mu's face. "Haha, do you think you can hurt me if you become this virtuous? What a fool." Yebufan's eyes were still empty, and he just stood there in mid-air, as if he was out of his mind. Qin Mu shook his head, threw him under the ring, and said with a cold snort, "Haha, don't worry, I won't kill you yet. After all, I am a kind emperor. How can I bear to let you die so young?" After finishing speaking, Qin Mu turned his head and glanced around, his eyes passing over the many monks one by one. Seeing his eyes, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Especially the monks who had spoken out against Qin just now all lowered their heads and remained silent, and no one dared to speak out anymore. Seeing this scene, Qin Mu's eyes flashed faintly, then he waved his sleeves and shouted loudly, "I now declare that Qingyun Temple will be classified as an organization of evil demons. From now on, anyone related to Qingtian Temple will kill the 9 tribes and behead them." As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused an uproar in the field. Everyone present was stunned. They thought Qin Mu was going to wipe out Qingtian Temple, but no one expected that the sect would be included in the ranks of evil spirits. You must know that Qingtian Temple is a famous and upright sect, one of the 4 holy places in the Daoxuan domain, and is famous throughout the human race. In this case, he actually wanted to kill everyone, not only Qingyun Temple, but also the reputation of the entire cultivation world. Qin Mu looked around and said coldly, "Why, do you have any objections? Lord of Great Qin, you have no substantial evidence yet, so you have so hastily classified Qingtian Temple as a demonic path. Is it too hasty? There are several highly respected saint-level experts who have stood up here. They have all had good relations with Qingtian Temple and have been greatly benefited by it. Naturally, they do not want to see Qingtian Temple being purged. That's right. Isn't it too arbitrary for you to rashly issue such an order without any conclusive evidence?" Several other old men said equally indignantly. Others agreed, "Yes, Qingtian Temple has been passed down for thousands of years and has a profound foundation. Even if there is a scumbag Yebufan, it does not mean that everyone is evil. It is unfair for you to do this. Yes, even if you want to punish traitors, you must provide evidence, otherwise you will not be able to convince the public at all. Qingtian Temple has a long heritage and strong power. We cannot put others to death just because of our own selfish desires. This is unreasonable. Everyone opened their mouths to retort. Hearing the arguments below, Qin Mu's eyes flashed with coldness, and he sneered and said, "Everyone is right. I really don't have any evidence. I just suspect that Qingtian Temple is colluding with demons." He paused deliberately at this point. However, I believe it won't take long to find out the matter. Qingtian Temple colluded with demons and committed a heinous crime, and must pay the due price. As soon as these words came out, the scene was completely silent. Everyone was secretly stunned. They didn't expect this young lord of Qin to be so ruthless. Not only do they want to eradicate the Qingtian Temple, but they also uproot the entire Holy Land and raze it to the ground. Your Majesty, you are simply unreasonable. Are you going to conclude that someone else is colluding with the devil based on just a guess? At this time, an old man with white beard and hair jumped out and said. He carried an aura as vast as the sea, and he was obviously highly skilled. He said angrily, "We had good relations with Qingtian Temple at the beginning, and they supported us in every way, so that we could reach our current state. Without them, the human race would not be as prosperous as it is now. I don't think we can push the Qingtian Temple into the abyss with my own opinions. Oh, I wonder if you have any advice?" Qin Mu asked with interest. The old man pondered for a moment and then said, "Your Majesty, if you want to wipe out Qingtian Temple, I naturally have no objections, but please come up with tangible evidence, or find evidence that they are colluding with the demons. If you don't have these, I will not be able to support you." Qin Mu narrowed his eyes, with a playful smile on his face. "Evidence? It's very simple." After he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his sword to strike, and in an instant, an extremely sharp blade shot out. The old man was caught off guard and was pierced through the chest with a sword. Blood spurted out and he died on the spot. The scene fell into silence for a moment. Hiss. Many people were frightened. They did not expect Qin Mu to be so cruel and kill a strong saint without saying a word. Moreover, it kills instantly with one move, so its strength is too terrifying. "Your Majesty, you..." The others looked at him with shock on their faces, feeling incredible. Qin Mu looked grim and said word by word, "This man is interceding for the evil demon. He is obviously a minion of Qingtian Temple and should be killed." Everyone's heart was lifted. Qin Mu's move completely broke his heart. Could it be said that the Qin dynasty wanted to become the enemy of the entire human race? This has huge implications, and if it is not handled properly, it is likely to bring catastrophic destruction to the entire human race. Just when everyone was silent, the masters of the Wangxiang Shrine, the Taizhang sect and Weiha finally came out of the darkness. The master of the Wangxiang Palace, an old man with white hair and a childish face, frowned slightly and said, "Qin Mu, you went too far this time. Although King Tianguan made a big mistake, it is not something you can punish with just one word. The sect leader of Weiha is a burly man." He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Daoist Qin, if Qingtian Temple is really as you said, we will definitely not let them off easily after we find the evidence, but is it too early?" The expressions on their faces were not very good, because Qin Mu's move was undoubtedly a challenge to their authority. What does Dakin want to do? Does he want to become the leader of the human race? The young-looking leader of the supreme sect did not speak, but looked at Qin Mu with a smile. Qin Mu glanced at the three people, then snorted coldly and said, "Fellow Taoists, you'd better understand the situation. Qingtian Temple is colluding with demons. This is an ironclad fact. If you protect them, what's the difference between you and those demons? Does it mean that you are all running dogs of demons? How dare you insult us?" The leader of Weiha was furious. They are an upright human sect, but they are called demons. How can people accept this? You are looking for death. The leader of Wangxiang Palace had red eyes and exuded a strong murderous aura. Qin Mu was not afraid at all. He said calmly, "Why, are you angry? Did I say something wrong?" The two men took a step forward at the same time, ready to teach Qin Mu a lesson and let him know who is the leader of the human race. Seeing the tense situation between the two sides, the monks around were all shocked. If a fight breaks out, no one can escape, and even this Xuanhuan mountain will be destroyed. At this critical moment, a vague voice sounded, "Enough." The Supreme Sect Master slowly stepped forward and said softly, "Don't make trouble anymore. The Lord of the Great Qin is right. I have been investigating Qingtian Temple for a long time. There is indeed a suspicion of collusion with demons. But I have never found enough evidence, so I have been delaying and not taking action. Now that the Lord of the Great Qin has opened this head and provided clues, I will personally lead people to enter Qingtian Temple and thoroughly investigate this case." The masters of the Wangxiang Palace and the Boundless Sea all changed their faces when they heard this. They didn't expect that the Supreme Sect Master would actually stand up and speak for Qin Mu. The Supreme Sect's disciples all widened their eyes. They had never seen the Sect Master speak for anyone. Ji Tianming's eyes flickered, and a complex look surged in the depths of his eyes. Qin Mu looked at the Supreme Sect Master, then looked around, and said in a deep voice, "Is there anyone who wants to stop me? If not, I will order the arrest of the traitor Qingtian Temple disciples now." The two sect masters of Wangxiang Palace and Weiha looked at each other and then retreated. It has come to this point. If they stop again, it would seem to be a ghost. "Qin Mu, tell me the truth, do you have the evidence?" At this time, the Supreme Sect Master suddenly asked. Qin Mu nodded slightly and smiled and replied, "Of course. Everyone. If there is evidence, why don't you take it out earlier, and kill so many people for no reason?" As if seeing everyone's confusion, Qin Mu smiled faintly, "There is no special reason why I didn't take it out. It's just that I like to kill people. Everyone. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 528. The corners of the mouths of the leaders of the Wangxiang Palace and the Weiha twitched. "You have killed so many people, there must be a reason." The leader of the Wangxiang Palace resisted the desire to complain and continued to ask. "Because I want to kill people, that's all." Qin Mu shrugged his shoulders and said. The leaders of the Wangxiang Palace and the Weiha were speechless. What kind of reason is this? But they couldn't say anything else, so they could only remain silent. Anyway, they couldn't stop Qin Mu from killing anyone, so why bother to humiliate himself? Seeing that the leader of the Wangxiang Palace retreated, Qin Mu turned his eyes to the leader of the Supreme Sect and sighed. "It seems that you also support me in dealing with Qingtian Temple, so I have nothing to worry about. Today I will exterminate the sect and completely destroy Qingtian Temple." "Qin Mu, you don't need to provoke me. I don't buy this. We can solve this matter ourselves." The leader of the Supreme Sect waved his hand and said. "After all, they are the top human forces, how could they tolerate demons riding on their necks to poop and pee? It's just that due to various reasons, there has been no way to investigate Qingtian Temple. But since Qin Mu provided clues, it's naturally the best. Regardless of whether he can catch the handle of the disciples of Qingtian Temple, at least he will investigate them first." Qin Mu narrowed his eyes, stared at the other party and said, "Don't you want my great Qin to intervene?" The Supreme Sect Master shook his head and said seriously, "It's not that I don't want to accept the help of the great Qin, but your methods are too cruel. And you kill too much, it's easy to arouse public anger. At that time, not only Qingtian Temple, but also the entire human race will fall into civil strife. If it leads to the destruction of human lives, no one can bear the responsibility at that time. So, I hope you can restrain yourself and try to avoid such things from happening. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." Hearing these words, many people present felt a warm current in their hearts. This is the person who truly loves the people. Qin Mu laughed loudly. What does it have to do with me if the lives of people on earth are in ruins? I just need to do what I think is right. If you don't let me do it, I will do it. His voice was sonorous, shocking the entire Wanzhong mountain. At this moment, Wanzhong mountain seemed to be filled with a strong aura of killing. Everyone felt a little suffocated, and breathing became difficult. Whether it was an old antique with unfathomable strength, a young hero, a peerless genius, or an ordinary cultivator, all felt a strong threat of death descending on their bodies, as if they would die in the next moment. The two masters of the Wangxiang Palace and the Weiha looked slightly depressed. Although Qin Mu was arrogant and domineering, his strength was indeed strong enough to threaten them. The master of the supreme sect also changed his face slightly. Although he knew that Qin Mu was a madman, he still didn't expect Qin Mu to be so arrogant. If Qin Mu was allowed to kill like this, he would probably go crazy sooner or later. The atmosphere of Wanzhong Mountain became more and more solidified, and the air seemed to be sticky and suffocating. Everyone's eyes were focused on Qin Mu. They had a premonition that everything that happened today might change the pattern of the human race. Qin Mu, you have to think about the consequences, the leader of Wangxiang Palace said in a deep voice. Consequences? Ha. Qin Mu snorted coldly and said disdainfully, the consequence is that the three of you will submit to me from now on and bow down to me. And my great Qin will become the common master of the world and lead the human race to prosperity. Arrogant. The leaders of Wangxiang Palace and Weiha were furious. Don't talk nonsense and make false statements. The leader of Weiha pointed at Qin Mu and shouted. They couldn't figure out why Qin Mu suddenly wanted to become the common master of the world and spoke nonsense when he was only targeting Qingtian Temple just now. This is ridiculous. Hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone around was surprised. They didn't expect Qin Mu to have such ambitions. Qin Mu glanced at the master of Wangxiang Palace and the master of Weiha calmly, and said slowly. My patience is not good, I advise you to think about it seriously. The master of Weiha roared, my Wangxiang Palace has been passed down for tens of thousands of years, and has experienced hundreds of catastrophes. It has always stood firm. How can I bow down to you? Qin Mu said indifferently, really? I want to see the foundation of Wangxiang Palace. Qin Mu, the master of Weiha shouted angrily, do you really think that I can't do anything to you? Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, then try it. You. The master of Weiha gritted his teeth and wanted to rush up to fight with Qin Mu. Qin Mu's attitude is really too arrogant. But he also knows that Qin Mu is powerful. If he acts rashly, he may not get any benefits. Qin Mu, don't go too far. The leader of the Wangxiang Palace was also indignant. This was simply not taking them seriously. Qin Mu, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you are the king of Qin. Your behavior has touched our bottom line, the leader of the Weiha said in a deep voice. The leader of the Taizhang sect did not speak, but he looked at Qin Mu with a vigilant look. The words just now have initially revealed Qin Mu's ambition. If he continues to indulge, he may set off a huge wave again. Oh! What if it touches the bottom line? Kneel down at my feet and surrender now, otherwise I will crush you today, Qin Mu snorted coldly. His voice resounded throughout the entire space, deafening and extremely domineering, as if his words were like golden rules that were not allowed to be disobeyed. Treason, Weiha and the masters of Wangxiang Shrine said in unison. Their eyes were cold, and their hearts were filled with murderous intent. The atmosphere in Halloween Mountain is extremely depressing, and every inch of space is filled with a sense of tension and depression. None of the senior officials of these sect families thought that Qin Mu would dare to be so arrogant. What was even more shocking to them was that Qin Mu actually wanted to rule the entire human race. You must know that the human race is vast and has countless powerful sections. Although the Qin is powerful, it is far from the opponent of all the forces of the human race. This is a foolish dream and it is impossible to accomplish. But now, Qin Mu actually wants to trample the entire human race under his feet, which is really unbelievable. This is a lunatic, a total lunatic. At this time, Qin Mu spoke calmly, and his voice spread throughout every inch of space. There are 42 domains in this world. Do you know why the human race only occupies 9 Kankan domains? The cultivation of the human race is no worse than that of other races, and their talents are more than one level higher, but they have been unable to occupy more places. They are even constantly invaded and suppressed by other races. Why is this? Everyone frowned when they heard Qin Mu's words. The situation of the human race cannot be summed up in a simple sentence, it involves too much. Qin Mu's eyes suddenly became sharp, and he said in a cold voice, "Let me tell you, that's because the human race is complicated. Not only do they have to resist other races, but they also have to guard against the betrayal of their own compatriots. How can such a human race be here? What qualifications do you have to rule the world?" As Qin Mu finished speaking, a boundless killing aura emanated from his body, making the heroes around him tremble. While the human race is in internal strife, the foreign races are desperately trying to expand their sphere of influence. There are even human monks who have taken refuge with the foreign races and become aliens. Qin Mu said coldly, "Tell me, why does the human race not perish in this situation?" The 2 sect masters of Wangxiang Shrine and Weiha were silent. They are also very aware of the current situation of the human race, but they have never been able to find a solution because this is a shortcoming of the human race and is deeply rooted. Seeing that the 2 of them were silent, Qin Mu sneered, "What? Are you speechless?" The sect leader of the Wangxiang Shrine took a deep breath and said slowly, "This kind of thing cannot be done overnight. You can't rush it?" The leader of Weiha also echoed, "Yes, this kind of thing cannot be rushed. It needs to be done slowly and step by step." Qin Mu sneered, "Are you in a hurry? You also know that you are in a hurry? But you indulge Qingtian Temple to wreak havoc on the world? Do you know how many people your indulgence has harmed? The human race is suffering from internal and external troubles. If these scourges are not eradicated, the human race will eventually be exterminated. And you are waiting for the opportunity to enjoy the benefits. This is greed. I not only want to destroy Qingtian Temple, but also destroy all other evil sects, leaving no one behind. Completely eliminate the human race worms. If you stop me, I will kill you. If you don't accept it, come and fight." Qin Mu's voice resounded in All Saints Mountain and reached the ears of countless people. All the monks in Wanzhong Mountain were shocked by Qin Mu's words, and they all looked horrified. "This is crazy. Treasonous. You have lost your mind, you can't keep such a person." Several elders from the Wangxiang Shrine and Weiha looked indignant. This guy is so arrogant that he wants to deal with all the forces by himself. Seeing Qin Mu's attitude, the masters of Wangxiang Shrine and Weiha looked at each other, and both saw horror in each other's eyes. This person has an extreme personality. If he gets angry, he won't give anyone face. "We must unite," the leader of Weiha said. "That's exactly what I meant," the sect leader of the Wangxiang Shrine nodded. "Qin Mu, you are too presumptuous. Do you know who you are talking to? I advise you to take back what you just said, otherwise, you will never leave the Wanzhong Mountain today," the sect leader of the Wangxiang Shrine said coldly. Qin Mu glanced at the sect leader of the Wangxiang Shrine and said sarcastically, "What? Do you, the Wangxiang Shrine, want to fight with me?" The corners of his mouth curved in a cold arc. "I would like to learn about the strength of your Vientiane Palace." Boom! In an instant, the void trembled, and a huge majesty filled the All Saints Mountain, causing everyone in the All Saints Mountain to kneel on the ground, with a look of awe on their faces. I don't want to talk nonsense to you. Now I give you two choices, Qin Mu said indifferently, 1. Surrender, 2. War. His tone was domineering, revealing a sharp edge that was terrifying. Qin Mu, you are going too far, the sect leader of the Wangxiang shrine shouted violently, and a surging momentum surged around his body. This is completely unreasonable behavior. Deceiving others. Are you worthy of saying this? Qin Mu sneered, with cold murderous intent bursting out of his eyes. Qin Mu glanced at the two sect masters and said indifferently, I will give you a stick of incense to think about it. If you are still stubborn, then I will kill you now. Now that we've talked about this, there's nothing left to talk about except a fight. The leader of Huiaha said slowly, and at the same time, the surrounding void began to twist. He also burst out with amazing aura, ready to fight at any time. In that case, then come on, let me see how powerful you sect leaders are. Qin Mu said lightly, and then, his eyes flashed with dazzling golden light, and wisps of tyrannical aura burst out from his body, making the whole area seem to have turned into Shura purgatory, full of murderous aura. This guy. The two sect masters cursed in their hearts. This is not the power that a quasi-emperor level strongman should have, it is completely beyond. Moreover, Qin Mu's aura is too terrifying, they feel that their souls seem to be shattered. Is he really a quasi-emperor? Thinking of this, the two felt a headache. However, things have come to this point, and they have no way out. Humph, just pretending, the two sect masters roared, and they all activated their skills and magic weapons, releasing various terrifying attacks. Qin Mu's eyes flashed with contempt, raised his arm, and punched out fiercely. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the three of them collided with each other. The strong and unparalleled light illuminated the sky, making countless people unable to open their eyes. At this moment, whether it was the disciples of Wanzhong Mountain or the people watching from afar, they all showed extremely shocked expressions. Although the distance was very far, they still saw the scene and were shocked. Hiss! What a terrifying body! The Lord of Dakan actually used his body to fight against the masters of Wangxiang Palace and Huiaha. It's incredible. What level has the Lord of Dakan reached? Is this the combat power of a quasi-emperor? It's really terrifying. Many people talked about it, and their hearts were filled with surging waves and boundless oppression. Many people talked about it, and their hearts were filled with strong admiration. When the light gradually dissipated, everyone saw that Qin Mu was standing still. On the other hand, the masters of Wangxiang Palace and Huiaha took several steps back before they stabilized their bodies. The two sect masters were pale and bloodless, with blood oozing from the corners of their mouths, obviously suffering from severe injuries. Hiss! Countless people gasped, their eyes widened. The sect masters of Wangxiang Palace and Huiaha were defeated by the Lord of Dakan, and they were injured. This is really too exaggerated. The sect masters of Wangxiang Palace and Huiaha are powerful men in the realm of quasi-emperors. They actually lost. Their heads were buzzing, and they couldn't believe it at all. This is a quasi-emperor, a high and mighty existence, overlooking the whole world. They actually lost to a young man, it's too dreamy. Qin Mu, don't go too far, the sect master of Huiaha said gloomily. I originally planned to spare your lives, but unfortunately, you insisted on seeking death, Qin Mu sneered, and a fierce murderous intent burst out from his body. Qin Mu, you are too arrogant, the leader of Huiaha shouted, and then slashed with a sword. The sword light penetrated the sky, dazzling and full of endless power. This sword was extremely terrifying, as if it cut through the void and tore the sky apart. It was so powerful that it could destroy anything. However, Qin Mu just stretched out his right hand calmly, spread his 5 fingers, and slapped forward. Suddenly, a huge dragon claw condensed out of thin air, covering the void and crushing the sword light. Boom! The leader of Xuanhuan retreated hundreds of feet before stopping, his face full of fear. "Don't you want to see my strength?" Qin Mu glanced around coldly and said indifferently, "Now you see it." Hearing Qin Mu's words, the disciples of Xuanhuan and Wangxiang Palace all became embarrassed, wishing they could find a hole to drill into. "Humph, what are you all standing there for? Hurry up and set up the formation," the leader of the Wangxiang Palace shouted to the other elders. The elders of the Wangxiang Palace looked at each other. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Bulletin Leng. Chapter 529. The elders did not hesitate too much and immediately began to join forces to form a formation. Although Qin Mu's strength was indeed strong, they were outnumbered and had a large formation to assist them, so they might not lose. And they knew that if they chose not to act now, they might be in for a catastrophe. Because Qin Mu's ambition was too great, so great that they could not bear it at all. And the most important thing was that Qin Mu's strength was also strong, so strong that they were afraid of him. This made them feel deeply fearful and depressed. If they continued to keep Qin Mu here, he would definitely pose a very serious threat to them in the future. They could only do their best to kill Qin Mu, the hidden threat. Kill him, never let him live. A roar spread all over the place, and all of a sudden, the elders offered their treasures. "Form a formation." As the elders shouted at the same time, a very terrifying spiritual power fluctuation burst out from them, instantly sweeping the entire space and forming a spiritual power storm visible to the naked eye. "Kill," the leader of Xuanhuan also gritted his teeth and said, he knew that there was no way to avoid it today, and the only way was to fight. In an instant, dozens of elders rushed into the formation, each occupying a position, releasing infinite brilliance. In an instant, the vitality between heaven and earth boiled up, raging like a storm, fierce and boundless. Rumble. As the elders of Xuanhuan and Wangxiang Palace urged the formation, a series of extremely terrifying runes rushed into the sky. Rumble. In an instant, the sky shook, countless terrifying runes rushed into the sky, intertwined in the void, each rune flowed with brilliant luster, as dazzling as stars, covering the world. Then it turned into huge mountains rising from the ground, surrounded by runes, guarding the 8 wastelands and 6 directions, revealing terrifying fluctuations. These great mountains are extremely majestic, standing between heaven and earth. Each of them exudes an ancient and vicissitudes of life, as if carrying the traces of time, with a heavy and majestic feeling. They are like living things, exuding a suffocating breath. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying breath spread out, vast and unpredictable, shaking people's hearts, covering the entire void, as if billions of stars fell. This formation is too terrifying, making the disciples of Wangxiang Palace and Xuanhuan show joy. "Wangxiang Fumo formation," a powerful cultivator exclaimed, recognizing this formation. "This is the trump card of Wangxiang Palace. I didn't expect it to be used against the Lord of Dakan. It's really cruel. He, all this is his own fault, and he can't blame others." The disciples of Xuanhuan sneered and gloated. The name of this formation is Wangxiang Fumo formation. It is a peerless formation with a long history of Wangxiang Palace that has suppressed countless strong men. It is said that this formation contains unparalleled destructive power. Once it is deployed, even the peak quasi-emperor realm will be crushed into slag, without a doubt. "This Qin Mu is dead, haha," the disciples of Wangxiang Palace cheered excitedly. This formation is enough to kill any quasi-emperor realm cultivator in seconds. At this moment, everyone's eyes are focused on Qin Mu with ridicule and mockery written on their faces. No one believes that Qin Mu can survive in the face of such a terrible formation. "This guy is dead, let's see how arrogant he is. Humph, he's just a quasi-emperor. He dares to go against us, he's simply courting death. Not only should we kill him, but we should also hang his bones in front of our Xuanhuan gate for 3 years to humiliate his people. Yes, we Xuanhuan have always been clear about gratitude and resentment. Since you have offended us, you will have to pay a painful price. Let everyone know what the price of daring to provoke Xuanhuan is. The disciples of Xuanhuan were indignant and talked, their faces full of satisfaction. In their opinion, no matter how powerful Qin Mu was, facing such a terrifying formation, he would definitely be in danger. Little beast, you're dead. The leader of the Wangxiang palace also grinned, looking at Qin Mu in the distance with a playful look. He couldn't wait to see the miserable scene of the lord of the great Qin kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. But Qin Mu was still standing there, with no intention of escaping or resisting at all. He glanced at everyone indifferently, with a contemptuous smile on his face. You think you can do anything to me with just a formation? It's just wishful thinking. Humph, you are so arrogant. The leader of the Wangxiang palace sneered, his face full of contempt, as if he had heard the most ridiculous thing in the world. Since you are so conceited, let me show you how powerful we are. As soon as the voice fell, the leader of the Wangxiang palace shouted, seal him for me. Buzz buzz buzz. In an instant, a harsh buzzing sound resounded between heaven and earth. The next moment, the leader of the Wangxiang palace pinched his hands, and suddenly, the giant symbols in the sky began to shake violently, as if they were coming alive. With a muffled buzz, those giant mountains standing in the void suddenly burst into infinite light, and then they slowly turned and came towards Qin Mu to suppress him. This scene made everyone hold their breath, staring at the mountain formed by the giant rune with wide eyes, staring at Qin Mu, waiting for his miserable end. Boom boom boom. As terrifying rays of light shot up into the sky, countless mountains descended, each of which was 100 feet high, emitting a monstrous and murderous aura. This was the most terrifying formation in the Wangxiang Fumo formation. Even if a quasi-emperor level strongman fell into it, he would never escape. The elders of the Wangxiang palace also breathed a sigh of relief. This was one of the strongest trump cards of the sect. Such a powerful move, even if Qin Mu was terrifying, he couldn't resist it, right? One after another, huge mountains, like meteorites, descended, carrying the terrifying power of destroying the world, and suppressed Qin Mu from all directions. The scene was so spectacular and terrifying, just like the end of the world. This guy is finally going to be unlucky, someone in the crowd said, gloating. They wished that Qin Mu would die sooner. The fear Qin Mu brought to them was so profound that they even forgot what their cultivation level was, and only felt extremely panicked. At this time, they prayed in their hearts, hoping that Qin Mu would die under this Wangxiang Fumo formation. Let's see who can save him this time. Haha, I've disliked him for a long time. That's right, let's step on him today. Many people echoed, with cold murderous intent flashing in their eyes. Qin Mu looked up at the suppressed Dayu, with a slight smile on his lips, outlining a cold arc. His blood was surging, the surging golden blood was rolling and surging, and wisps of golden flames were burning the sky. He felt a very special breath from this Wangxiang Fu Mo formation, like some kind of rules, but different. Rather than saying it was a formation, it was more like some kind of restriction. Anyone trapped in the Wangxiang Fu Mo formation would find it difficult to break out unless they had absolutely overwhelming strength. In this way, Qin Mu understood why the disciples of Wangxiang Palace and Xuanhuan were so confident. This formation should be arranged with the help of the power of heaven and earth, which is interesting, Qin Mu whispered, with his hands behind his back. His eyes were extremely deep. Boom! The dozens of mountains came at him at the same time, at a very fast speed, and the force they carried was about to overturn the sky. Qin Mu raised a slight arc at the corner of his mouth, raised his feet and took a step forward. Boom! With one step, the whole sky trembled violently, as if it was trampled down. Then Qin Mu's figure suddenly accelerated and rushed towards the dozens of mountains. A ray of terrifying metallic luster emerged from his body, and his physical defense instantly increased several times. Bang bang bang. The next moment, the endless mountains hit him, and a dull loud noise erupted. Qin Mu was motionless, as steady as a rock, his body burst into golden light, like a golden god of war, and his whole body was filled with a domineering and fierce aura, which made countless people feel in awe. On the other hand, dozens of mountains were broken apart by Qin Mu's body. With a series of dull sounds, Qin Mu's savage and overbearing body slammed into dozens of mountains, causing a burst of brilliant sparks and dazzling light that illuminated the world. Qin Mu punched out, and the violent and ferocious divine fire roared out, burning all the attacking techniques in the sky. He was so fast that every step he took could cover a distance of 1,000 meters. In the blink of an eye, he came to a mountain, swung his arm, and slapped it lightly. This palm was wrapped in a huge force, the space was shaking, and a deafening sound wave sounded, as if the world was shaking, indestructible and invincible. Bang! This palm fell on the mountain, making a loud noise, and the whole mountain was shaking wildly. Under the gaze of countless eyes, cracks appeared on the surface of the mountain, spreading like a spider web and quickly spreading to the surroundings. Crack! Then, the majestic mountain suddenly exploded, turning into powder and floating down. Then, several other mountains were also blasted into two by Qin Mu, completely scrapped, and lost the support of spiritual energy. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, the luster of the surface of dozens of mountains gradually dimmed, and cracks appeared, as if they had suffered devastating damage. Bang bang bang. As dozens of mountains were blown up one after another, one mountain after another collapsed, rocks flew through the air, smoke and dust rolled, and the scene was extremely spectacular, like a scene of the end of the world. Qin Mu stood in the air, his body intact, as if a peerless immortal king had descended to the world, arrogant and overlooking the world. Puff! At the same time, the disciples of Huiha and Wangxiang Palace turned pale, spit out a large mouthful of blood, and their bodies were shaky and almost fell to the ground. It was too against the will of heaven to break this Wangxiang Fumo formation and destroy dozens of mountains with only the power of the flesh. How could it be? The pupils of the Wangxiang Palace and the Huiha disciples all shrank, and their faces turned gloomy. This formation was created by the joint sacrifice of the sages of the two sects, and it contains the essence of the two religions. In theory, no matter how high your cultivation is, no matter how powerful your physical strength is, you will only fall in the face of this formation. But Qin Mu did it, and broke it easily, which made the people of the two sects feel powerless. This was an unexpected result. What a strong physical body! Ji Tianming stared at the figure in the distance, and a deep surprise appeared on his handsome face. Has Qin Mu's physical body reached this level? Originally, he thought that he valued Qin Mu enough, but he still underestimated him. How strong is he? Ji Tianming murmured to himself, looking at Qin Mu's back without blinking. The Supreme Sect Master also showed surprise. He knew how powerful this all-encompassing demon-suppressing array was, and even if he entered it in person, it would still take a lot of effort. However, Qin Mu easily broke through this formation with only his physical body. Such a method made him palpitate. This strength is really unbelievable, the Supreme Leader thought to himself. The more amazing Qin Mu acted, the more relieved he felt. Because he is the only person in the four holy lands who has not taken action against him. If Qin Mu wins, then the supreme religion may become the opponent's best ally, or a subordinate. And he vaguely felt that Qin Mu's talent potential seemed to be stronger than he expected. Perhaps in the near future, Qin Mu will become stronger and even be able to glimpse the imperial realm. After all, Qin Mu's bone age is only over 20 years old. Such an evildoer's age can be said to be unprecedented, and there are not many people who can be found throughout the 9 realms of Taiwan. If Qin Mu grows up, the Taizhang sect will usher in a new prosperous age. Thinking of this, the Supreme Master's eyes were filled with joy. He seemed to have anticipated the scene where the Supreme Master would reach its peak. Qin Mu did not stop and continued to move forward. All kinds of terrifying attacks continued to burst out around him. Each one of them is enough to instantly kill a monk on the 7th or 8th level of the Saint Realm, but in Qin Mu's eyes, it is just like a decoration. Bang! Qin Mu slapped him, and the space was torn apart as if it were made of paper. A man in a green robe was immediately knocked out and fell to the ground. Hiss! Seeing this scene, everyone in the supreme religion and the warriors who were watching couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, feeling their scalp numb and their whole body cold. Because this man is none other than the sect leader of Wu Yahai. The majestic and half-imperial being was knocked away by Qin Mu with a casual palm. The power Qin Mu showed just now was beyond the scope of many people's cognition. How about it, have you considered it clearly now? Qin Mu walked over with his feet in the air, looking down at the Weiha sect master lying on the ground, and his indifferent voice slowly sounded. After hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone's eyes were focused on the Weiha sect leader. Hearing this, the leader of Weiha gnashed his teeth and roared, "I, Weiha, will never surrender to you." Hearing this, Qin Mu frowned slightly, a sarcastic smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and said, "In this case, you will only die. Qin Mu, I advise you to stop. Otherwise you will be hunted endlessly and never live in peace. And now you have caused a huge disaster. If you kill me again, it will definitely trigger a rebellion among all the forces in the 9 human regions. Fight together. Although you are powerful, can you still defeat the forces of the entire 9 human realms? By then, even if you escape to the ends of the world, you will still be dead." The leader of Weiha shouted loudly, trying to defeat Qin Mu's fighting spirit with words. He. Hearing this, Qin Mu couldn't help but laugh. To be honest, before I came here, I had basically taken care of all the sections. Qin Mu glanced at Weiha sect master lightly and said calmly, "As for the remaining forces, there is nothing to fear." What? The leader of Weiha looked shocked, his eyes widened with a look of astonishment on his face. After Qin Mu said these words, the whole place fell into dead silence for an instant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 530. Everyone stood there in a daze, staring at Qin Mu with wide eyes, their heads buzzing, unable to react for a while. Qin Mu, before he came to Wanzhong Mountain, he had already dealt with all the forces. How is this possible? They simply couldn't believe that Qin Mu could deal with all the forces in the 9 regions in such a short time, which was incredible. You have to know that the forces in the entire human race's 9 regions added up to at least tens of thousands. How could it be so easy to deal with? Is this guy bragging? Impossible. He must be talking nonsense. Everyone spoke up, their faces full of shock, suspecting that Qin Mu was lying. Humph. I think he is just scaring us. It's ridiculous for a young boy in his 20s to make such a boast in front of us. I think he is not only arrogant, but also has a broken brain, otherwise how could he be so stupid to say such big words? Some cultivators sneered, they didn't believe Qin Mu could do it. After all, the 9 realms are so vast and the forces are so complex. How easy is it to rule the 9 realms? Even an immortal can hardly do it. However, due to the terrible strength shown by Qin Mu, they did not act rashly. After all, they were not sure how many cards Qin Mu had. If they acted rashly to anger Qin Mu, they would suffer. Now they wanted to see if Qin Mu was talking big. If it was confirmed. At that time, his words would spread throughout the 9 realms of the human race, making countless cultivators laugh. Many people chose to remain silent and kept silent, and did not sing against Qin Mu. Because the power Qin Mu just displayed was too powerful, they might bring disaster to the sect if they rashly stood on the side. But they still did not think Qin Mu could do it. Since ancient times, the human race could only be unified for a short time when the emperor appeared. But once the emperor fell, the human race returned to the previous state of disintegration and killing each other. But from ancient times to the present, there are only a handful of human emperors. It is extremely difficult for a quasi-emperor to rule the entire 9 realms, and it can even be said to be a fantasy. After all, which force does not have some foundation, especially those first-class holy places with the inheritance of the emperor, which hide countless powerful weapons, and even have quasi-emperor ancestors living in seclusion. It is difficult for a quasi-emperor to conquer these forces and old monsters. Qin Mu is obviously not a great emperor of this level now, and he is too young. Ha ha ha. Qin Mu, I admit that you are very powerful. But you want to conquer the human race with this little strength, wishful thinking, it's ridiculous. Seeing those people silent, the leader of Xuanhuan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and laughed out loud. Hearing the words of the leader of Xuanhuan, the high-level leaders of other forces echoed, and they also felt that Qin Mu was daydreaming. No matter how strong a person is, he can never rule the 9 realms, let alone rule all forces, that is simply impossible. After all, although Qin Mu is strong, he is far inferior to the emperor. The existence of the great emperor is a true godlike figure. Really? Hearing the words of the Xuanhuan sect master, Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, looked around, and a hint of sarcasm appeared at the corner of his mouth. My patience is limited, you'd better make a decision quickly. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, the Xuanhuan sect master raised his head and laughed wildly, like a madman, and said, Qin Mu, do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I'm an idiot? Your strength may be strong enough to defeat me, but it is impossible to subdue the major forces in the 9 regions. He shook his head disdainfully, believing that Qin Mu was bluffing and deliberately pretending to be like this to intimidate them. However, Shua. A golden flame suddenly appeared, like lightning breaking through the sky, and appeared next to the Xuanhuan sect master in an instant. This golden flame was extremely fast, as if it had surpassed the constraints of space, and pierced through the chest of the Xuanhuan sect master in the blink of an eye. Puff. The golden flame penetrated into his body through the wound, raging and burning his internal organs. The intense pain made the Xuanhuan sect master scream, his legs weakened and he knelt on the ground, his whole body twitching and shaking. Ah! A shrill scream came from the Xuanhuan sect master's mouth. He hugged his wound and rolled on the ground, his face twisted and hideous, as if he had been tortured and was in great pain. Everyone was shocked. Everyone stared at the Xuanhuan sect master in amazement. Damn! The Xuanhuan sect master's face was cold, his eyes were red and bloodshot, he was mad with hatred, and he stared at Qin Mu with gritted teeth. Just now, he clearly felt Qin Mu's attack, but he couldn't avoid it and was hit. This scene made him feel extremely angry, but more of it was fear. This ray of golden flame was very strange and powerful. Even his body was as hard as a quasi-emperor soldier and he couldn't resist it. He was hit and seriously injured, and even his soul was affected. Qin Mu looked at him coldly, without any emotion in his eyes, as if he was looking at a trivial matter, and said indifferently, there is only one chance. You. Xuanhuan sect master clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. His eyes were red, staring at Qin Mu with resentment, gritting his teeth, wishing to eat Qin Mu alive. He was unwilling, really unwilling. Obviously, his realm was higher than Qin Mu, but he was crushed by Qin Mu. He was a powerful quasi-emperor, but he couldn't bear to lose to a young boy like Qin Mu. Qin Mu, The leader of Weaha raised his head with difficulty and said fiercely with all his strength, "Don't bully others too much. I, Weaha, are not afraid of you." Hearing this, Qin Mu grinned with white teeth and a bright smile. "Oh, really? In that case, let's give it a try." As soon as he finished speaking, a blazing golden flame surged out of Qin Mu's palm. In an instant, the golden flame turned into a torrential flood and rushed towards the Weaha sect master. Ah! The leader of Weaha was panicked, his face full of fear, and he tried desperately to struggle back. But it's too late. The golden flame spread quickly, covering his whole body in the blink of an eye. Boom! Accompanied by bursts of explosions, golden flames surged across the wasteland. In an instant, the leader of the Weaha sect was enveloped in golden flames, burning fiercely and turning into a ball of fire. The leader of Weaha howled miserably, screaming and roaring in the golden flames, but to no avail. The temperature of the golden flame was extremely high. He only struggled for a few seconds before being burned to a blackened body, like a roasted pig. "Don't be so arrogant. I am the leader of Weaha. If you dare to hurt me, I, the ancestor of Weaha, will never forgive you." The leader of Weaha roared, his eyes filled with scarlet fierce light. His status is that he is one of the highest-ranking people in the human race. Even other quasi-emperors have to be polite when they see him. But at this moment, under Qin Mu's attack, he was unable to fight back. His skin was burned black and he was in a miserable state. It was like a slap in the face, crackling. This kind of shame was unbearable for him. "Ancestor of Weaha," Qin Mu grinned, with a hint of amusement in his eyes, and said, "If your ancestor of Weaha comes, then I will be quite afraid, but it's a pity that he can't come, he he he." After hearing Qin Mu's words, everyone was stunned. How could the ancestor of Weaha not be able to come? Ancestor Weaha is a truly worthy quasi-emperor. Moreover, he has been practicing for a long time, has a strong foundation, and has terrifying strength. Even if the quasi-emperor encounters the ancestor of Weaha, he will immediately take a detour. How dare Qin Mu say that the ancestor of Weaha can't come? Where did he get the confidence? Everyone looked at each other. Humph. My ancestor, Weaha, is one of the three giants of the human race. I have been in the Eastern Emperor realm for thousands of years. You are just a little kid, how do you know how terrifying he is? The leader of Weaha sneered and said, "Today I admit defeat. But if you dare to destroy my disciples of Weaha today, in the future I, Weaha, will surely destroy the Qin dynasty and leave no chickens or dogs behind." Ha. Qin Mu shook his head, looked at Weaha sect master sympathetically, and said, "It seems you still don't repent." Qin Mu raised his right hand lightly, and the golden flames in his palm suddenly shot up several meters high, and the scorching temperature made the void become distorted. Hurrah! In an instant, the golden flames around the leader of Weaha surged and turned into a sea of fire, submerging his entire body. Ah! The leader of Weaha let out a heart-rending wail, the sound shook the sky, and it was extremely miserable. The endless golden flames burned him crazily, and he felt as if he had fallen into a volcano. His whole body was wrapped in flames, and the pain was so painful that his soul was about to collapse. "Help me!" The leader of Weaha roared hysterically, but he could not stop the golden flame from destroying him. At this moment, the Weaha sect master was completely panicked, and his heart was filled with boundless fear. "No! Help me! Help!" The leader of Weaha couldn't help crying. He was scared, really scared. If he continued like this, he knew very well that he would be wiped out. Qin Mu's expression was cold and he completely turned a deaf ear, showing no intention of letting go of the Weaha sect master. Puff puff puff. The golden flames burned every inch of his skin and blood, causing the Weaha sect leader's heart to break in pain, his face twisted ferociously, and he wailed miserably. The sect master of the Wangxiang Shrine and Elder Weiha who were on the side finally could no longer sit idly by and used their weapons one after another. Fellow Taoist, hold on. Sect master, I'll be here to save you. The master of the Vientiane Shrine sacrificed a pagoda. The pagoda bloomed with bright brilliance, rose in the wind, and expanded hundreds of times in the blink of an eye, releasing an extremely domineering power. The elders of Weiha sacrificed all kinds of spiritual talismans and hidden weapons, shooting at Qin Mu from all directions, with overwhelming killing intent. Facing the offensive from the master of the Wangxiang Shrine and others, Qin Mu didn't take it seriously. He just smiled indifferently and slowly raised his right hand. Buzz. A subtle sword cry suddenly sounded, and then Qin Mu waved his arm, spread his fingers, and instantly transformed into thousands of dense sword shadows. Boo-hoo! The invisible sword intent filled the air, making everyone present feel chills, their hairs stand on end, and their souls trembled. The invisible sword intent seems to be able to pierce through any material and defense, making them feel a deep crisis of death. No, get away quickly, the master of the Wangxiang Shrine's face changed drastically and he shouted hurriedly. Elder Wu Yahe and the sect's deacon were frightened and evacuated frantically. They knew how powerful Qin Mu was, and if he resisted forcefully, they would definitely die. It's a pity that they responded too slowly. When the sword shadow came, they had already been targeted and could not escape. Shua shua shua. The next moment, sword shadows poured out like a tide, interweaving densely and swallowing them all. No. Don't. The master of Wangxiang Palace and others wailed miserably and begged for mercy with fear on their faces. But it was too late. Chi 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 chi. Sword shadows pierced through their bodies, blood splattered, and it was extremely tragic. In just a moment, the master of Wangxiang Palace and many elders of Weiha all fell, and no bones were left. Weiha was destroyed. Gilug. Seeing this horrifying scene, everyone present was frightened and pale, and was terrified to the extreme. Qin Mu actually did it. Destroy the sect with one thought. Invincible in the world. A master of Wangxiang Palace is enough to resist thousands of troops and even kill quasi-emperors. But in front of Qin Mu, he was as fragile as an ant, and could not withstand a single blow. This scene shocked many cultivators present. Although they knew that Qin Mu was powerful, they did not expect that his strength was so amazing that he could destroy the sect with a single thought. Qin Mu, you actually dared to destroy my Weiha. The Weiha sect master's eyes were red with anger and he roared in anger. He never thought that Qin Mu would be so decisive and ruthless, and would destroy them directly in front of everyone without any hesitation. Qin Mu looked at him coldly and asked indifferently, I will give you one last chance. Are you willing to submit to me and submit to the Qin? The Weiha sect master was burning with golden flames, and his wounds were healing quickly. He said fiercely, don't even think about letting me surrender. I will never let you do as you wish. He would rather be torn to pieces than surrender. In that case, you can die peacefully. Qin Mu's face darkened, and then he flicked his finger, and the golden flame swept through the soul of the Weiha sect master, burning it. Bang! The Weiha sect master's body exploded and completely disappeared between heaven and earth. The Weiha sect master, the pillar of the Weiha, fell here like this, and even his body could not be found. Hiss. Everyone took a breath of cold air, trembling all over, and looked at Qin Mu with more fear and fear. A quasi-emperor was killed by Qin Mu in an instant, without any effort. What level did Qin Mu's strength reach? Qin Mu took away the storage ring of the Weiha sect master, turned around and looked at everyone, sneering, is there anyone else who wants to try? Everyone was so scared that their faces turned pale. How could they have the courage to fight? The strength shown by Qin Mu just now has deeply shocked them. How dare they dare to act rashly? They couldn't help but feel fortunate that they didn't participate in the siege just now, otherwise they would be the ones to die now. They finally understood that the great Qin dynasty was not a behemoth that they could shake. From today on, the great Qin dynasty will be the common leader of the human race and lead the human race to prosperity. From now on, any clan in the territory of the great Qin dynasty must obey orders. Those who violate the order will be killed with all their clans. If you don't obey, you will be killed without mercy. Qin Mu stood in the void, his voice spread all over the field, roaring like thunder. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Bulletin Leng. Chapter 531. Qin Mu's words were sonorous and powerful, containing the ultimate domineering and majesty, and the invisible momentum made everyone feel a huge oppression. Hearing Qin Mu's words, tens of millions of cultivators present were stunned, and a huge wave of emotions was raised in their hearts, which could not be calmed for a long time. Is the Lord of the Great Qin really playing for real? The Great Qin really wants to establish a new dynasty and rule the entire human world. This is definitely a feat that has never been done before and will never be done again. Because even the emperor has never done this. The forces of the human race are too complicated, and the major forces have their own foundations and intricate interests. Once a force forcibly intervenes and intends to unify the human race, it will inevitably cause many contradictions and conflicts. The various forces of the human race will never allow anyone to override them, and they will definitely unite to oppose. After all, no one wants to be deprived of the interests and power they control. This requires not only iron-blooded means, but also strong strength to suppress. It can be said that it is too difficult to unify the human world and it is almost impossible to accomplish. And most importantly, the Great Qin is just a small country. Why does it have the qualifications to unify the human race? Even if the strength of the Great Qin Lord is enough to crush all forces and make other forces dare not resist. But how can people's hearts be unified? The human world is vast and boundless, with many strong people and masters. Even if Qin Mu is a quasi-emperor, it is probably difficult to unify people's hearts, right? If the dynasty is established rashly, it is easy to cause chaos, and it may even allow foreign races to take advantage of the situation, eventually leading to the decline of the human race and causing a catastrophe. But in other words, if the Great Qin dynasty is really successful, it will create a miracle that will shock the world. After Qin Mu finished speaking, the whole audience was silent. Whether it was a weak cultivator or a powerful cultivator, they all stood there in a daze, their heads filled with disbelief. Your Majesty, are you sure you want to establish the Great Qin dynasty and lead the human race? An old man stared at Qin Mu blankly and couldn't help asking. This man is an elder of a big family. He has practiced for thousands of years and has now entered the realm of saints. He is a great figure. His question also represents the doubts of countless people. After all, Qin Mu's proposal is too crazy for everyone to believe. There are too many people in the human race. Each force has its own interests and demands. It is impossible to easily agree to unification. Some people think that Qin Mu is just talking, and even suspect that this is an illusion. However, after seeing Qin Mu's cold eyes, they suddenly realized that this is not a dream. All this is true. Qin Mu really wants to establish a new dynasty and rule the human world. Qin Mu's eyes swept the whole audience and slowly said, I say one thing and one thing. From today on, the Great Qin dynasty is the only dynasty of the human race. He stood proudly in the void with his hands behind his back, looking around at everyone, and said lightly, if you don't want to surrender, you will only die. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled slightly, as if they saw a rising sun, shining on the entire human world, shining brightly. The establishment of the Great Qin dynasty is destined to be recorded in the annals of history. However, Soon someone frowned and said worriedly, "Your Majesty's strength is indeed terrible, but there are too many powerful families and forces in the 9 domains of the human race. If your Majesty really rules the human race, I am afraid he will be targeted by them." Everyone nodded in agreement. After all, there are too many powerful forces in the human race, and there are many hidden sects behind them. How easy is it to truly unify? Especially the Paradise religion and those Buddhist tantric sects in the Paradise domain, which firmly occupy the Paradise religion. They are extremely xenophobic to other forces and do not allow other forces to invade. Once the Great Qin dynasty is established, it will inevitably be blocked by them. Qin Mu's eyes were cold, and he slowly said, "Who dares to obstruct my steps, kill without mercy. Who dares not to obey? Kill without mercy. Who dares to offend the Great Qin dynasty, behead without mercy. Anyone who is unwilling to submit and disobeys will be killed without mercy." Qin Mu's voice became louder and louder, spreading throughout the world, which was frightening. In an instant, everyone was silent, not daring to question it any more. This is a real murderer. He was decisive and unreasonable in killing. Qin Mu continued, "From now on, the human race will be governed by the Great Qin dynasty, and all human resources will be assigned to the royal family. Other forces are not allowed to intervene in management. If there is any disobedience, there will be no mercy." Qin Mu's expression was cold, and his eyes revealed a piercing coldness. Everyone's heart was awed, their bodies trembled involuntarily, and their faces were pale. This is definitely a demon king, who is murderous by nature and more brutal than anyone they have ever seen. At this moment, Qin Mu's voice exploded in everyone's ears, shocking people. They felt an extremely dangerous breath from Qin Mu. This is a feeling that cannot be described in words, like an abyss that devours human souls and suffocates people. "I will obey the imperial decree." After a short silence, everyone knelt respectfully and said loudly, with a loud voice. They knew that the human race might change in the future. However, no one dared to raise any objections, because they had witnessed Qin Mu's brutal methods with their own eyes, and they had begun to recognize the Great Qin dynasty as the common leader. Qin Mu nodded with satisfaction, and then looked into the void. His eyes became much softer. He stretched out his hand and the enlightenment tree spread out in the air, with branches swaying and exuding fragrance. Everyone immediately raised their heads, breathing greedily, with shock flashing in their eyes. Qin Mu had a mysterious smile on his lips. "OM." At this moment, the enlightenment tree suddenly burst into brilliant light. Then, mysterious lines emerged, interweaving on the enlightenment tree, turning into a mysterious painting. The enlightenment tree exuded a hazy fairy light, and the branches and leaves swayed with rays of light, just like a fairy tree exiled from the earth, beautiful and extraordinary. It was emerald green and crystal, flashing with precious light, with auspicious air steaming, flowing with misty fairy mist, showing a peaceful scene. At the same time, wisps of pure spiritual energy surged and gathered around the enlightenment tree, making the enlightenment tree look more ethereal. OM. Suddenly, the enlightenment tree shook violently. Endless divine light splashed, and auspicious air filled the air. Then, the enlightenment tree began to grow, and in the blink of an eye it became a towering giant tree with thick branches and trunks that soared into the sky. Endless spiritual energy gushed out like a volcano, covering the entire sky and forming a hazy fairyland. Is this the enlightenment tree? Countless people stared with wide eyes, their eyes dull, and were completely shocked by the scene in front of them. Everyone stared at the enlightenment tree blankly, their eyes full of excitement and shock. The legendary enlightenment tree is actually real, I actually saw it with my own eyes. An old man's eyes were burning and excited. The enlightenment tree had long been lost in the human world, but it appeared here unexpectedly, which was simply unbelievable. The enlightenment tree actually exists. Is it the legendary sacred tree? Legend has it that the enlightenment tree can help cultivators comprehend the rules of heaven and earth and the mysteries of the Dao. It is a supreme treasure. That's right. As long as you have the enlightenment tree, your cultivation speed can be increased tenfold or 100-fold. Such a rich spiritual energy. Compared with ordinary natural treasures, it is many times more advanced. If you can get the enlightenment tree, you will definitely get twice the result with half the effort, and your cultivation speed will far exceed that of warriors of the same level. I originally thought that the spiritual energy of our sect was rich enough, but I didn't expect that compared with the enlightenment tree, it is simply a small witch compared to a big witch. Everyone exclaimed, staring at the enlightenment tree with a fiery look. At this moment, the enlightenment tree exudes an extremely amazing spiritual energy, filling the entire mountain. Under the spiritual energy vortex, golden rays of light floated, as brilliant and dazzling as a divine rainbow, intoxicating. Boom! The next second, the enlightenment tree shook violently, and thousands of feet of rosy clouds rushed up into the sky, covering an area of 100 miles, submerging everyone in the rosy clouds, allowing them to bathe in the divine glory. These rosy clouds contained the supreme Dao rhyme, which made their pores open, and they felt a sense of enlightenment, as if they were about to ascend and leave, and travel in the starry sky. But this feeling only existed for a short moment, and the enlightenment tree returned to calm. The rosy clouds quickly dimmed and eventually disappeared in the air. Countless people remained in their original state, with enjoyment on their faces, but they did not get any benefit, but felt a little lost. The feeling just now was too comfortable, just like falling into a fairyland, incomparable. What's going on? Why did the enlightenment tree stop? Some people were puzzled. They were also prepared to use the enlightenment tree's creation to baptize their physical bodies and spiritual consciousness, but they got nothing. It was like practicing dual cultivation with their own Taoist partner. Before they had time to take off their clothes, everything was over. This feeling is really maddening. Everyone, please listen to me. At this moment, a hearty voice suddenly came, breaking the silence. Huh! Everyone was stunned, and then looked at the voice, only to see Xuanhuan standing there, smiling slightly, and said, "This enlightenment tree is the treasure of my great Qin. There are only 3 opportunities to use it every year. The ancestors have stipulated that only people from the great Qin can use it, but..." He deliberately prolonged the tail sound to attract everyone's attention. "Your Majesty, please speak," a group of old monsters asked hurriedly. Xuanhuan smiled faintly and said, "Since you have submitted to my great Qin, you are naturally considered to be people of the great Qin, and naturally you can also get these 3 opportunities." As soon as these words came out, the scene was boiling, and everyone was overjoyed. This is the enlightenment tree. Every time it is used, it will bring huge benefits to the cultivator. If you are lucky enough, you may even have the hope of touching the legendary Quasi-Emperor realm. Quasi-Emperor. That is the realm they dream of reaching. The eyes of the strong men showed a burning color, wishing to get the 3 chances right now. At this time, Xuanhuan was passionate, his voice was extremely loud, resounding through the sky, and shocking people. "We warriors pursue immortality and fight for fate in order to seek eternal immortality. The survival of the human race is related to the fate of each of us, how can we play it lightly? My goal is to establish an unprecedented dynasty, protect billions of people, and seek eternal glory for the human race." Hearing this, everyone was shocked, felt the blood burning, and felt extremely excited. "We are willing to swear allegiance to your Majesty until death. Long live your Majesty! Long live your Majesty! Long live your Majesty!" After a short silence, someone suddenly knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. Then, countless people followed him to kneel on the ground, shouting in unison. The sound waves were like a tide, sweeping across the 8 wildernesses and reaching the sky. "Your servant greets the great Qin Emperor. Your servant greets the great Qin Emperor. Long live the Emperor, long live the Emperor, long live the Emperor. Immediately, a series of thunderous shouts erupted in the center of the square. Endless figures were kneeling on the ground, extremely pious. Although they are still anxious and worried. But at this time, in the face of huge interests, they are willing to take a gamble. After all, who doesn't want to be strong? And they have no choice. Seeing this scene, the leader of the Taishang Jiao couldn't help but sigh softly, and thought to himself, hey, the rise of the great Qin dynasty is unstoppable. As soon as this method of combining kindness and power was used, De Qin's status instantly became much more stable. He has no bad feelings towards the Qin dynasty. After all, he is a person who practices the way of forgetting love, cutting off the world of mortals, abandoning all emotions and desires, and is even more indifferent to power. Therefore, he did not hate the rule of the Qin dynasty. Moreover, the current Taishang Jiao is simply unable to resist the Qin dynasty. The most important thing is that he also needs the help of the Enlightenment tree. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to continue to improve his cultivation. Congratulations to Emperor Qin for his unification of the human race. The supreme leader walked forward slowly, cupped his hands and congratulated Qin Mu. Qin Mu smiled softly and said, "It's still early. This is just the beginning. There are still many troubles waiting for us to clear up." "Oh, is there any hidden danger?" the supreme leader said in surprise. Qin Mu nodded and said, "The monster clan, demon clan, ghost clan, and other powerful people from the outside world are all watching with eager eyes. I am worried that someone will take advantage of this." Hearing this, the supreme leader looked solemn, and after thinking carefully for a moment, he said, "Your Majesty is absolutely right. The monsters and demons are very ambitious. Once they seize the opportunity, they will definitely invade the 9 provinces continent. Now that the 9 provinces continent is in chaos, we really need a wise king to lead the human race to defeat powerful enemies and wipe out the remnants of all races." Qin Mu nodded with satisfaction and said, "In addition, I also want to find some partners." The supreme leader asked in confusion, "Partner?" A smile appeared on Qin Mu's lips and he said, "Of course, only by uniting can we defeat the 2 demon clans. I wonder which forces your Majesty is planning to form an alliance with," asked the supreme leader. "You will know later." Qin Mu shook his head and pretended to be cautious. "Yes," the supreme leader nodded and stopped asking. "By the way, I have a gift for you at this time." Qin Mu took out a leaf from his arms and handed it to the supreme leader. The supreme leader was slightly startled. After hesitating for a moment, he took the leaf and looked at it carefully. After a moment, the supreme leader was surprised and said, "This is the leaf of the Enlightenment tree." Qin Mu smiled and said, "Yes, these are the leaves of the Enlightenment tree." Hiss. The supreme leader took a breath and said excitedly, What a precious thing this is. The leaves of the Enlightenment tree can improve the ability to comprehend, and the effect is excellent. It is a priceless treasure that no one can refuse. Your Majesty, your gift is too valuable, and I dare not accept it," the supreme leader quickly declined. A treasure of this level would feel hot to the touch even for him, the Lord of the Holy Land. After all, this thing is so rare that it is rare in the world. Besides, he didn't do anything just now, so he was really embarrassed to accept this gift. Haha. Qin Mu smiled softly, put the leaf into the sleeve of the supreme leader, and said with a smile, "This thing is not of much use to me, but it is of great use to you, so you're welcome." The supreme leader hesitated for a moment, then nodded and solemnly thanked him, "Your Majesty has given me such a generous gift, which I will never forget. Since you are so grateful, how about I also ask for a gift from you?" At this time, Qin Mu suddenly smiled mysteriously and looked at the supreme leader indifferently.